Welcome to the MX-5 Super Showdown, brought to you live on the global SimRacing channel. Today's race takes place on the beautiful Suzuka International Racing Course. I'm Joe Peak. With me in the booth today, we have the ever-intelligent Kevin Browne. Welcome, Kevin.
Hey, Joe. Good to be here. I'm looking forward to an action-packed race.
Me too. Also with me, we have the effervescent Richard Losper. Glad to have you here, Richard.
Glad to be here, Joe. Looking forward to it, as Kevin said.
Yeah, it's a 2-hour race today, as it was last time at Spa, and like we said, we're at Suzuka, the 3.61 mile track in the Mei prefecture. Now, as you would assume from the name goes, all the drivers are driving the MX-5 Cup today, and it's going to be a long and gritty drive for these guys, but the fastest will hopefully come out on top. Now, last time we saw Jesper Pedersen come home with the win. Today he has got the, and in the warm-up he's actually second in the timing, so he's looking likely for another win. But just in front of him we can see one Ayrton Ellis, a GSRC member himself, topping the timing sheets. Do you think we should bring him in here and give a little talk before we go to green, guys?
Love to have a chat with him.
All right, let's bring him in here and see if he's got a moment to talk to us. Ayrton, can you hear us?
Yep, sure thing.
Ayrton, you've qualified 8th, I can see, but you're currently topping the timesheets. What do you feel your chances are to come home with a win today?
Well, setting down a fast lap is very different from being consistent and consistently setting down those fast laps. I think I qualified right in the position I should be. Some of the fast guys have not set down a fast lap during practice, and just my luck that I got a good draft there. I'm just struggling getting consistent lap, not spinning with this new setup I'm working with at the moment.
You mentioned that consistency is going to be a key factor here, with this being such a long race. What are some of the other things that you think will come into play, as far as maybe certain parts of the course or certain parts of strategy in bringing forward the best guys?
Well, there's definitely a few places where you can easily get a slowdown, and you can go off track very easily. And traffic should come into play, because there's some guys are 2 to 4 seconds slower than the pole sitter, so those guys may become lap traffic and may get chaotic with all the many drivers that are really close in times in the top leading group. So that's probably going to come into play. Strategy-wise, I think most people are just going to be stopping for fuel once they run out, and picking up tires and going as fast as they can go.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing how that all plays out, and good luck today.
Yep, thanks.
Well, I see we've got a couple other guys waiting for some pre-race interviews. We still got a little bit of time. So, Richard, would you like to talk to Dexter Castro, maybe?
Yes, I'll have a chat to Dexter.
Let's see if he's available. Dexter, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Do you have a moment to talk?
Sure, actually.
All right, Richard, go ahead.
Yes, hi Dexter. How are you, my friend?
Very sleep deprived and stiff, sleeping on the train.
All right. I'm just watching you on screen at the moment. During the early practice sessions, or during this practice session, you're fairly down the order at the moment. How do you rate your chances of a good finish tonight?
Well, I haven't driven in a week and a half, so the main goal is just going to be to finish without too much incident.
Yeah,
and,
I think that will be,
hopefully
it is a 2-hour race. Do you have any particular strategy that you were working on or thinking about?
I don't know. I'm going to be back in the pack because I didn't get to set a very good qualifying time. So I guess I might have to use that to my advantage. Maybe use the draft to save those couple of laps to make it to the finish on 2 stops, but I don't know.
Yes, it's going to be a very long race, so plenty of chances for people to come back even from a little setback. So, Dexter, we wish you all the best, and hopefully your race goes well.
Thank you.
Back to you, Joe.
Thanks. So it sounds like you know, a number of guys are expecting to maybe or just not looking for results, but just maybe make it to the end and consider that an accomplishment, which I can totally understand. Now I see we also have a Mr. Shane Feltz sitting waiting to be interviewed. Is he in the lineup here? Let me double check. I actually do not see him in the lineup, so I apologize for that. That was an error on my part. We do, however, have Stefan Overgaard, who is another one who sometimes helps us out here in the booth in GSRC. So let's see if Stefan's got a minute or two to talk to us. Stefan, can you hear us?
Stefan's out of the car, so he should be able to be available for a chat.
Might be taking a quick break before the race starts. We'll keep him around and see if he's got us, if he steps back anytime soon. But in the meantime, Kevin, I haven't talked to you a whole lot yet. Actually, we have qualifying order to go through, and with 60 cars, let's go through the qualifying first before we go through all the craziness of the topics. So. I'll just go through the top 10, Kevin, and if you want to pick up after that.
Absolutely.
Leading them, as we said, Jesper Pedersen took pole with a 2:28.7. Behind him, only a tenth of a second behind, is Sergio Mora with a 2:28.8. Then third, it's Wojciech Swierkiewicz. Then fourth, it's Konrad Hutten, the league organizer. Then fifth is Danny Conlon. Sixth is Simone Rossini. Seventh is Yao Freitas. 8th is our very own Ayrton Ellis with a 2:29.6. Then in 9th we have Simon Palmer with a 2:29.7. And then 10th it's Stefan Overgaard with a 2:29.7.
And 11th is Amjad Yaman. 12th is Luke Van Schaik. 13th is Heinrich Lourens, who is our first car in the 2-minute 30s. 14th is Euro Stolenko. 15th Marcus Meyer. 16th Steven Van Helsdingen. 17th is Jerry Janis. 18th Neil McLaughlin, 19th Thomas Hallinan, and 20 is Turn 2's Chris Morant.
Then in 21st we have Clive Lawrence. 22nd is Harley Lewis. 23rd is Anthony Goodale. 24th is Benjamin Lanouette. 25th is Omar Zanchi. 26th is Stefan Morien. 27th is Andre Cunha. Then in 28th it's Simon Dujny. 29th is Miguel Perez, and 30th is Dexter Castro.
Starting 31st will be Dwayne Stoddart, 32nd George Fike, 33rd will be Eric Garcia, and 34th will be Tori Tesla. 35th is Saif Alaya, 36th Wayne Morgan, 37th Dion Phillips, 38th Tion Dames, 39th Harry Gosling, 40th Adam Allen.
Then in 41st, it's Mike McCloskey. And 42nd, it's Andy Morgan. 43rd is Trent Smith. Then 44th is Emerson Brasidovics. 45th is John Whitehouse. 46th is Mario Beaudry. And 47th is Danny Shabesta. 48th is Danny Resser. 49th is Stefan Westrip. And in 50th, it's Rodrigo Facao.
51st is Paul Hayward, 52nd Gary Jackson, 53rd Derek Jones, 54th Alexis Molina, and 55th will be Scott Malcolm. 56th is Andrew Mick, 57th will be Max Guazanio, 58th will be Adrian Ludovic Chappert, 59th Jonathan Daw, and our final car on the grid will be Marco Mogren.
Quite a mouthful for a lot of these names. We apologize if we have mispronounced anybody's. We do our best to try and get those correct. And warm-up is actually just completing right now. So we're getting ready to head into the race. There is qualifying, as we said, is already completed. So we're going straight into things. The cars are going to get gridded up now. And this is definitely going to be an interesting one. It's a very different course compared to Spa, guys.
Yes,
Without
this is.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I was going to say, yes, this is probably a little more technical course, and with less of the huge long straights that Spa has, drafting will not be quite the priority that it was last time around.
Yeah, a feature of this particular track is the corner known as 130 arm, which basically is a 130-degree turn, left turn, coming off a very long approach. Cars are flat out. It is a passing zone if you're brave enough, so it remains to be seen who will be brave enough to try and pass
Lights
right
are
beyond
up.
130 arm.
And there's the green flag. They're off for the second event of the MX-5 Super Showdown at Suzuka International Racing Course. Jesper Pedersen already starts to squeeze Sergio Mora, and Wacek is bringing up third. Jesper is coming around the outside, and he's going to take the lead as they head into the first corner. I'm seeing if we've got any more action lower down. It looks like everyone's filing through pretty clean.
One car didn't start, Joe. One car started, swung right straight into the wall.
Kevin will have to take a look back, see if he can figure out who that was
and
for us.
Konrad has cut the course. Konrad's cut the course straight across, and he will get a slowdown penalty for sure.
Already lots and lots of cars are streaming by. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like 6 or even 7 positions now as they stream through the S's. It just goes to show you how important that rhythm is through there. And momentum is extremely important in these cars. He's continuing to lose spots. And it looks like Stefan Overgaard was off as well. As they come through Dunlop Corner, they're going to go 3 wide. He'll hold on. They're entering Degner 1, and it looks mostly clean besides a few offs.
And our car that started and went straight into the wall was Miguel Angel Ruiz Perez. He has appeared to have rejoined the track and is trailing somewhere in the latter stages of the field.
Well, Jesper Pedersen continues to lead the pack away as they go through the curve heading into Spoon. Sergio Mora, though, is very close behind him. He's not letting him get away yet. I think keeping contact is going to be very important as they continue this race and figuring out what everybody else is doing. Pretty close behind him, though. Wacek is keeping Sergio in check as well. And then in fourth, we've got Danny Conlon all together with them in a little bit of a pack, and it's a little ways back before we see anybody else.
That's right. Right at the front, as we say, as you just said, Jesper Pedersen. Sergio Mora, who is a known fast driver, is right on his bumper. There's a little pack of 4 cars, and then a small gap to the rest of them.
And there's a big wreck coming out of Spoon on the back straight. Sorry to jump in, guys. There was cars too wide, and all kinds of cars are crashing.
Jesper has wrecked as well. He's into the wall as we speak.
Well, that's at the Casio Triangle.
Jesper Pedersen wrecked just at the chicane. He's taking a tow because he's just disappeared off screen.
Let's watch the replay of that and see what exactly happened there. It looks like he got loose through 180R and found himself victim to one of the fastest and most fearsome corners in all of racing. Yeah, he put a wheel off, and that was there was just no controlling the car after that. Ooh, he came very close to Sergio Mora, though, so Sergio eked by that one. But unfortunate stuff.
Unbelievable, actually, Joe. He passed in between Sergio Mora and Wacek Swiderowicz. And didn't touch either of them. Incredible.
Well, Sergio's got at least a fair lead over Wacek Swiderowicz now, currently. And then Simone Rossini has inherited third out of all that. So we're already seeing, we're only 1 lap down, and attrition is already coming into play.
Yes, and I'm just having a look at Ayrton Ellis. He's currently in 5th place. The car in front of him, Danny Conlon, looking at it, has some damage on the front, so I wonder how long this car will stay in front of Ayrton. Ayrton's in a very, very good position in 5th place at the moment.
And I'm sorry, but Mora seems to have garnered a slowdown or something. He is going very slow as a number of cars go by him. So Swiderowicz has now moved himself up into 1st. Already, guys are really swapping around. I'm surprised that so many mistakes are going down. I would think that we'd see much more patience from these guys.
Yeah, it's early laps yet. The thing to do, one would imagine, would be to try and settle down and get into some sort of rhythm. But it's just been pretty frantic in the first couple of laps.
Absolutely, and Sergio has slid down to looks like 5th place. So Ayrton Ellis has already moved up into 4th. I know we try to remain impartial, but obviously we're Ayrton being a close member of this team, we're going to be cheering him on most likely, looking for good results. Amjad Yaman has also inherited a couple spots. He's up to 6th. We see him a lot in the Blondies series, and he's known as the doctor over there because of his clinical way of driving and strategizing his races. So we'll have to keep an eye on him. So let's see. Have you guys seen any other movers and shakers down through the field?
Well, we do have our first retirement. Heinrich Lorenz once again had internet problems, and he's had to retire. Unfortunately for him, that's 2 rounds down.
Yeah, he's going to hope for some better luck coming his way eventually. Now, I'm looking at Luke Van Schaik. He's currently got Uros Shalenko behind him. He was going defensive down the front straightaway, which is interesting because he wasn't close enough. But those guys could possibly be battling. I like Uros' purple and yellow little paint scheme going on there. It's a very cool little scheme. In the meantime, I'm looking down. Konrad Hutten, who had that cut course, has moved himself all the way down to 11th.
And we've got another car off the track just in front of Konrad. Back on again. Gosh, he went really wide. Surely he's got to slow down for that.
Sounds like that was Steven Van Helsdingen who had that off, so he has still got the car going. He's still in it, but he'll want to... his heart's probably beating at this point. He'll probably want to minimize stuff like that as this race progresses. A lot of these guys, as you were saying, these guys are just needing to settle down at this point. There's a lot going on. People are going off everywhere. Guys just need to get their rhythm going and kind of get into their strategy, get the laps rifled off.
Yeah, that you would think that would ease what they would be doing. I'm looking at Simon Palmer at the moment. He's a very, very good driver and should really be further up from where he is at the moment. But his car also has some damage, so it seems like in these early laps, quite a number of cars have had contact or have had an argument with the wall, Joe.
That's going to be a very short argument if you ask me. But Simon's actually got quite a pack behind him. Not really a truly trained, but a number of cars starting to pile up. Anthony Goodale's getting very close. He's going to take a look in his spoon. Yes, he does. In fact, he gets cleanly on the inside, but it's not over yet. Simon is holding on the outside as the radius decreases on the rest of the corner, and he's got to give up the ghost as they hit the backstretch. But Anthony's going to be vulnerable as the draft is going to pull Simon in.
Yes, it seems to me that that spoon curve is it's such a deceptive corner because it just goes on, and of course it leads down to the straight, which then leads onto 130R. Very tricky track, this, Kevin. You know this track very well, I'm pretty sure. What are your thoughts about these guys having to be able to churn out consistent laps? We have cars off everywhere.
Owen Conrad makes contact with Marcus Meyer. Who else was involved with that? Let's go to replay now.
And Conrad was involved in that as well.
Looks like Steven Van Helsding was involved as well. In fact, he was the one that kicked it off. He got into the side of Conrad and then cut across the chicane, and then Conrad came back and there was nowhere to go as Van Helsding stopped in the middle of the course. And then it looks like Marcus was just an innocent victim in all that.
And then he came back and caught him again. So I'm pretty sure Conrad's not going to be happy about that. I do notice that Konrad has gone straight into the pits. Another little contact, so he's piling on the contacts, and hopefully he'll get his car all fixed up and rejoin somewhere down the order.
It's going to be pretty far down after that early off, and now this contact. He's exiting the pits right now, as you can see. So he's back into it. Doesn't seem that he got too much damage out of it, but it's definitely going to hurt his car. And I'm actually being told that they have unlimited fast repairs, so that's something worth noting. It's not something that you really want to incur. It's a nice little bonus in this series, but Kevin, I don't think that they're going to be able to recover from that and come back with a win.
That's going to be difficult, and we're now seeing Steven Van Helsingen is apologizing. He says his computer froze, so that would explain why he attempted to make a low percentage overtake maneuver there. That's very unfortunate for the guys that were collected.
Very much so.
Guys, I'm having a look at the front of the field again. Wojciech has got quite severe damage to the rear of his car. He's still leading the race, being followed by Simon Rossini and Ayrton Ellis in third place now. But have a look at his car. There's a lot of damage around the back end. And Sergio Mura goes very wide.
But he closes up under braking as they enter the Casio Triangle. Yeah, Ayrton's made extremely good progress, going from 8th all the way to a podium position. Where's Danny Conlon, though? Because he was marked as 3rd last time by. It looks like he actually was overtaken by Ayrton over the course of that lap.
That's correct. He is now following Ayrton, and following him is Sergio Mura, who went pretty wide coming out of 130R and going down that straight to the chicane. So that's your top 5 at the moment. Wojciech, Simon Rossini, Ayrton Ellis, Danny Conlon, and Sergio Mura. And they're still quite in a pack. And a little way back from them is Amjad Yaman. So with a long race like this, anything could happen, and I'm sure it will.
And I'm willing to bet that Amjad is kind of hoping they start battling a little more. I noticed that Sergio is getting right up on the back of Danny, as well as Ellis is getting very close to Rossini at moments. No one's really taken looks yet. If they're smart about this, they're going to wait for a mistake rather than, trying to dive in somewhere, or maybe just simply out-accelerate someone out of a corner. They're going through Degner 1 and 2 right now. Rossini continues to hold second, and as you said, this is just a little pack of 4, kind of all working together at the moment. No one's shaking and making any moves.
That's right. And just looking further back, just behind Amjad Yaman, we have Luke Van Schaik. Now, Luke Van Schaik in the Genuine Official Series is normally up near the top as well, so we can expect to see some good things from him as the race winds down, I'm pretty sure.
We've also got Thomas Hallinan, who's currently scored in 9th in that black and white machine, and he is actually a real-life driver, and I'm not exactly familiar with what series he's from. We'll have to dig that up, but he's obviously pulling from some sort of real-life experience here. I've seen him race in Blondies before, and he can be pretty fearsome and pretty aggressive up front, but I'm expecting him to continue to make progress as the race goes on.
And just in front of Thomas is a guy by the name of Uros Jelenko. Now, I've seen his name pop up once or twice, but I really don't know what he's like as a driver. Obviously quite fast, being in the top 10 in such decent company of drivers. Does anybody else know anything about this guy?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Luke Van Schaik had a hell of a moment coming out of 130R. He somehow held onto it. Uros tried to take it to the chicane, and now they're side by side coming down the front straight. Thomas Hallinan is starting to get involved. Are they going to go 3 wide before turn 1? That is not a 3 wide, let alone a 2 wide corner. Extremely fast. They are 3 wide now. Who's going to give way? It's still early in the race, and Uros decides discretion is the better part of valor and backs out. Luke Van Schaik, after all that, manages to come out on top, but Thomas Hallinan has moved up 1 position.
So, and I do want to point out we have about a 13-car battle for 10th place. Currently, Anthony Goodell holds that, but Stefan Overgaard has been hunting him down and keeps showing his nose in all kinds of places. Neil McLaughlin in the bright green AAA car is sitting behind those two, I think, waiting for a mistake. And then there's a long string of cars that keep kind of closing up and down as they each keep fighting their own battles. So this is the mid-pack of this field is liable to change very quickly at a moment's notice.
That's what it seems like, and there's definitely, it seems we're seeing a bit of a mix. Some guys with more endurance experience seem to be kind of biding their time, and other guys seem to be just snapping up at any opportunity that comes their way. And I think you're going to see those guys separated very much so as the race goes down. The more impatient ones are probably going to be slipping to the back unless they are extremely good in wheel-to-wheel. But yeah, Stefan, we've seen, he tends to be an upper mid-pack driver. In his history that we have experience with, has been one that he's been having quite a bit of bad luck lately, honestly. He's had the pace, he's had fairly decent strategy, but in series such as the CES and other things, he seems to just get the wrong end of the stick.
Yeah. I'm having a look, guys, at Jesper Pedersen, who you will recall was the pole sitter for this race. He's circulating again. The leaderboard shows him in 28th place. He's cutting a pretty lonely figure at the moment, following a group of cars. So I wonder if he will be able to make his way from 28th place to nearer to the front.
Well, he's about 52 seconds down, and it's over a 2-minute lap around here, I believe. So he's got, in fact, I think it's like something like 2.5 minutes. So he's in no threat of going a lap down at this point. That's good that he at least is on the lead lap. He's got 52 seconds or so to make up on the leaders. He does have the pace, I think, to move up. We could see him pull a Carl Williamson here, but it's going to be a hell of a job for him. In the meantime, let's look further around the field, see if we got anything exciting going on.
There's a huge pack around the 17th place mark, led by Andre Kuna, and behind him a trail of cars as they come down the front straight. Let's watch these guys to see if any action develops here, Joe.
Yeah, it looks like Dexter Castro has... this looks like Simon Palmer behind him. Simon was taking a look on the inside of turn 1, but decided to back out of it. So Simon's looking to pick a little fight with Dexter there, see if he can make anything happen. Dexter is in the not number 49, the 49 Motorsports machine, and Simon Palmer is in that dark blue machine, hunting him down as they head through the S's.
And
Benjamin Lanowit. Sorry, Kevin, you go ahead, please.
I was just going to say that this is quite a big train that was up in touch with the battle for 10th, but they've kind of dropped back very quickly in the last couple of laps. Perhaps Andre Cunha is slowing the group up. What I do know is Dexter Castro looks very racy right now. It looks like he's got a lot of speed, so I think he's probably going to try to move forward very shortly.
Well, in the meantime, Simon Palmer is now under threat from Omar Zanchi, who is took a look coming up to Degner, but that is not a passing zone, I can tell you. I've had guys try that before, and it didn't go very well. They're coming through the hairpin, and Omar is right behind him. He's taking a look on the left side. I don't think he's going to be able to do anything around that long right-hander that's coming up. He's going to want to tuck into the draft or something, because he doesn't seem to have enough of an exit. Or maybe he does. I'm going to eat my words. He's pulling up, and he's going to have the inside coming up here. So he's going to have to outbrake him into Spoon. Is Simon going to back out? Yes, he lets him have it. Omar moves up into 16th position.
See now, Joe, that's the wise thing to do. Now, Simon's lost a couple of positions there, but he's an experienced campaigner in the GT Cup Series, and you got to know when to let an over-eager guy go by and live to fight another day, because these over-eager guys, you'll find them sitting in the pits after a few laps, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'd say unless you've got 10 laps to go or something here, it's time to kind of let someone who has better pace just as soon as they get a run on you, don't fight it, let them have the inside and let them go by, because you're going to slow each other down and ultimately finish further down than you possibly could have if something happens up ahead of you. Someone makes a mistake and you can take advantage of it later in the race. But Omar, we haven't talked a whole lot about him yet. He seems to be doing pretty good. And apparently Simon Palmer is headed into the pits. So we are about 20 minutes into this race right now. So pit strategy seems to be a bit early for a two-stopper. Kevin?
Yeah, he may have gotten damaged. He lost about 5 positions on the back straight there, so I think he was a little slow there from some damage that we didn't see him pick up. Or maybe he just decided to go easy and let these guys by since he knew he was going to pit. But we do know that pit strategy is really open. These guys have a lot of different options available to them today, and that's going to really kind of make or break how they actually finish, since there's just so many factors that are going to change when they pit.
Absolutely, and we haven't talked a whole lot about pit stops. I think we've briefly mentioned that there's likely going to be a two-stopper here because they have limited the fuel just a little bit. I need to double check and see exactly how much you are allowed to fill up with. But
I think it's, if I can jump in there, I think it's 28 cents, so it comes down to about just under 4.2 gallons of fuel that they can take, which is about half an hour's worth of driving, maybe 35 minutes worth of driving.
So I'm sorry, I had that incorrect. That sounds like a three-stopper then for most everybody. Now, I'm watching a battle here between Benjamin Lanouette and Simon Van Dooney, and if I totally botched that name, I'm sorry. And Simon is actually taking a look on the inside of Benjamin, but he backs out of it as they head into Spoon. He's kind of been slowly but patiently just working his way up to the back of Benjamin here, and I'm pretty sure that he's got the pace on him. If he doesn't, he's got a very good draft going on.
Yes, I'm looking at Benjamin's car close up, and he's got a bit of damage in the front. Is there any car in this series that, in this race that hasn't been involved in some sort of contact? I wonder.
Well,
Yeah.
it looks like our leader Wojciech has not had any contact. He has got about a 4.5-second lead on the entire field right now. But we do have quite the battle for second place with Ayrton Ellis, Simone Rossini, Danny Collin, and Amjad Yaman all involved in this race.
Wojciech has severe damage on his rear end, Kevin. If you have a look at it, I'm surprised that he can keep up that sort of pace with the whole back end is just stove in.
You're right, I was looking at the wrong car, but he does still have a 4.5-second lead. I was right about that.
Yes, absolutely, and I don't care what his car looks like. I would take that 4.5-second lead any day.
Now we've got a very fierce battle going on for second. Ayrton Ellis is trying to hold off Simone. Simone looks on the inside and he taps the back of Ellis. Ellis tries to hold on to it through Degner.
He's spinning, and he's come to a stop at the moment. He has to turn the car around. Sergio Mura goes around him and two other cars as well. He decides to turn around in the dirt, and he's coming back onto the track now. That was a pretty sad moment for Ayrton, but he does live to fight another day. I don't think anybody touched him.
Yeah, that was a heart-stopping moment for him, and I was watching that whole thing happen. I really don't think Ayrton did anything wrong. I think that was too over-eager from Simone. Degner 1 is really not a passing zone. He stuck his nose in, and he didn't have any of his car in there. He just sent Ayrton around, and you can see Ayrton narrowly was avoided. He was right on the racing line, so good heads up on those cars that managed to get around him.
Yeah, Simone had definitely gotten a very good run out of Dunlop, through the S's and out of Dunlop, and perhaps just surprised himself a little bit with the gap there. So, fortunately.
Interestingly,
yes.
Simone has backed off and let Ayrton back through. Now, Simone had to have given up a number of positions for that. Did he lose those earlier, or did he just slow himself down?
I believe he slowed down, Joe, because he felt that he had done the wrong thing. Simone is a very gentlemanly driver, and he's done the right thing, or perhaps he's done the gentlemanly thing and waited for Ayrton to come around and pass him.
Simone also does have significant damage to his right rear, so I'm wondering if that may have played a factor as well.
Well, true. It does have a lot of damage there.
This promotes Danny Conlon into second, and Amjad Yaman, well, I don't see Amjad on the track. Amjad Yaman seems to have lost connection, guys.
Oh no, not again. I don't see him on the track at all in the list, so that is pretty sad for Amjad. I think this happened in the Blondies race as well, Joe. Is that correct?
I know Amjad ran into some trouble the other day, but I don't think he had a connection issue that I can recall. However, it is worth noting that I'm looking at the podium. Sergio Mora, who we saw have some problems a little bit earlier, is all the way back up into third after his early troubles.
Yeah, perhaps we should just run through the top 10 or so. You want to take us off on that, Kevin?
All right, well, absolutely. Our current leader still is Wojciech Svrdovic. Second place is Danny Conlon. Third place, Sergio Mora. Fourth, Thomas Hallinan. Fifth, Luke Van Schaik. Sixth, Ayrton Ellis. Seventh is Simone Rossini, who did not pit to repair damage. Eighth is Anthony Goodale. Ninth, Neil McLaughlin. And 10th is Clive Lawrence.
So it looks like some of these mid-pack guys have been slowly climbing their way up by just staying out of trouble, because we've seen a lot of that already today. We're only 25 minutes in. We're not even a quarter of the way through, and lots of offs, lots of contact between cars. Well,
and Simon has just passed Ayrton again, and Ayrton this time visibly slowed his car to let Simone pass. So there was a bit of a fierce battle between them. I think that Ayrton has decided that discretion is the better part of valor, as you said previously, Joe, and just let Simone through, because it seems Simone has got a bit more pace than Ayrton at this point in time.
Absolutely, and even though the draft isn't as huge of a factor here, there are some very long straightaways. So if Simone has better pace than Ayrton, then it would behoove Ayrton to just kind of slot in behind and let him carry him along. So he could be playing a smart game here. He's coming up on the draft. We'll have to see if he takes a look. Yeah, see, he backs off and just lets him carry him through 130R. So smart driving possibly from Ayrton Ellis. We're getting just about to where the first pit window is going to be at the 30-minute mark.
Now, I've gone all the way back, as we see Ayrton still battling with Simone, but keeping his distance by the look of it. I've gone all the way back to 21st place, and I'm looking at George Fike. Now, some of you who have been around for a few years might know that George pops up from time to time and races the MX-5. I haven't seen him for a while in any of the races, but he's currently sitting in 21st place and following a guy called Saif Alaya. So this race is obviously made a lot of people come perhaps out of retirement to come and race, Joe.
You know, I don't know if there's an actual prize, but there's definitely, with the incredible amount of talent in this field, definitely some draw to prove yourself amongst the best of the best in this little car. And it really is, it's an interesting one to try and to prove yourself as a fast driver. You've got to be very precise and very aggressive with this car. So I'm not surprised that you're seeing some people come out and say, you know, hey, I want to get in on this. I want to get my name up there with the best. So, well, in the meantime, let's find ourselves a little battle, give the people a little something entertaining to watch. I'm looking through, since you started at 21st, see if we can see anyone behind them, the lower reaches. I do see Simon Palmer has worked his way back up to 25th after some repairing some damage earlier. And I see Harry Gosling actually was in the pits there. Was he repairing damage, or was he taking his first pit stop?
I believe it was, we haven't heard or seen him in any incident, so possibly we're in the pit window now, 28 minutes, so he's possibly just done a pit stop, Joe.
It's very likely at this point. So it's starting to go down as far as pit stops go.
Kevin, what's the story with our friend Chris Moran? I see him way down in 33rd place on the leaderboard, if my leaderboard is correct. I would have thought he'd be up much further than that.
Yeah, I don't really know actually what's going on with him so far today. He kind of is a little hot and cold at Suzuka. Will have a great lap and then a really miserable lap, and then string together a bunch of great laps. So maybe he's just struggling a little bit right now, dealing with one of the more difficult tracks. But I do want to point out our pole sitter Jesper Peterson has been moving right up through the field since his incident. He is currently sitting in 18th place, so that's a guy that's definitely on the move.
And it's worth noting that last time, a few laps ago, we looked at him, he was 52 seconds back. Right now he's currently 49 seconds back, so he's at least making progress. I don't know if he's going to have enough time for that. You see cars going off to let him by, actually. So maybe the freight train is coming through and they figure it's better to just get out of the way. So interesting stuff from Jesper. Keep half an eye on him, see if he continues to make progress on the leaders. Wacek has been running about 230.9 laps, and let's see what Jesper's been running.
He's been running low 230s fairly consistently, it looks like, the last couple of laps. So he's very, very quick right now.
And while you're looking at Jesper, just in front of him is Benjamin Lanouette, and in front of Benjamin is Eric Garcia. Now, if we get the camera onto Erik, you'll notice that he's running in the colors, which is part of a series that we broadcast as well. It's called the Blondies QRS series. And there's Eric Garcia in his Blondies car. Joe?
Yes, and that's a very entertaining little series. And Erik isn't usually one of the front runners up there, but he's a very consistent, very clean driver from what we've seen. And he's currently holding 16th, which is well up the order in a field of 60 cars. So good on him for being able to run into the the upper reaches of the midfield.
And Jesper Peterson just passed on the outside of Benjamin Lanouette and into the inside of Degner 1. That is a tough place to pass, and he made that work.
That is some supreme faith in Benjamin there. I would not have attempted that move, but maybe that's why Jesper is one of the fastest drivers and I'm not. So guts showing that you can make hay.
Yeah, if we just have a look at where he is at the moment. So he was in 18th and he's moved up to 17th. So he's got Benjamin Lanouette, Erik Garcia, Simon Van Duyn, who is a fast guy, Omar Zanchi, so it's not going to be that easy for him to make passes as he just did previously with Benjamin.
Yeah, his progress is going to be slower and slower as things go on. Now, I see we've got Amjad in the booth, and I'm pretty sure he is out of this race at this point. Let me double check on that before we talk to him, because we know he was having connection problems, but we haven't quite confirmed it completely yet.
And while you're doing that, I'm just looking at the leaderboard. It's showing Danny Conlon in first place. So has Wojciech gone into the pits? Kevin, have you noticed anything?
I'm sorry, I was just speaking to Amjad, and sounds like, Amjad, your computer overheated. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
So tell us what happened with your race there.
Well, after the Ellis spin, I worked my way up to third place, and then just suddenly my computer started spazzing out, and it's the telltale sign of overheating. So I had to hit the reset button on my computer. Nothing I can do.
Oh man, that's unfortunate. Looks like you were having a great run there. You kind of clawed back up and reeled in the group battling for second place. Did you think you had a good shot there at the win?
I don't know about the win. I mean, it was a long race, but definitely I would have kept on that podium if it wasn't for the computer failure.
Yeah, that's...
Commiserations there, Amjad. I'm sorry to hear that you're out of the race because of a computer failure, which is the worst thing that can happen to anybody.
Yeah, but at least I get the next, hour and a half to clean up my computer, so, something good's going to come out of it.
Well, hopefully you'll get 2 more chances to try and make something, as this MX-5 Super Showdown has 2 more races later down the line. Do you hope to be jumping into those?
If I'm available, definitely.
We look forward to it. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Guys, there's a man on the move at the moment, and that man is Wojciech Swiridowicz. Now, he has pitted. His car looks brand new to me, and he's currently, according to the leaderboard, sitting in 5th place. So I believe that he is not going to wait around to try and get back on that podium, if not for the win.
Definitely, and I'm sure as things cycle through, we'll see how he shuffles out there. I do think it's worth noting that Tuomas Hallinen, who actually is pitting now, had worked his way into 3rd. We'll watch and see where he comes out, because he was making steady progress up through the field and doing a pretty good job of it. In the meantime, the current leader is Danny Conlon, who is also pitting. Sergio Mora is pitting. So a whole pack of lead cars are coming in. Luke Van Schaik is coming in from 4th. Wojciech is going to cycle around. So we're going to see right now exactly where they all wind up. He's coming through 130R as we speak.
Yes, I'm looking at Luke Van Schaik. He's been in 4th place, as you mentioned, and he's in the pits. Ayrton Ellis has just left the pits by the looks of it, so it's all happening, Joe. Oh, sorry, he's just come into the pit. It looked like the speed at which he passed Luke. It looked like he was leaving.
And Wachek just sails on by as the rest of the pack exits right now. Looks like the big winner in that, Sergio Mora, has moved himself up into second place. Although in third, we do have Tuomas Hallinen. So his third was by merit, apparently.
Well, and these are after those positions are after the pit stops are in effect. Our current leader is Clive Lawrence right now.
Ah, thank you. Clive, as you said, has not pit. He is heading through Degner 1 and 2. So let's see, where was he qualifying, actually? He qualified 20th. So even considering he hasn't pitted, that's actually pretty impressive to work his way up into the lead.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's a great run, and we do know he's got a couple of guys that we're used to seeing very quick in the MX-5s behind him, namely Dexter Castro, Omar Zanchi, and Jesper Peterson. So Clive's having a good run.
And right now I'm watching Ayrton Ellis, who came out right behind Simone Rossini, and the battle is on between the two of them again. And I think Ayrton is rejuvenated with a fixed car and a full load of fuel once again, Joe.
Now, I'd been taking a peek at him a few times, and I noticed that he really wasn't making any moves. I'm pretty sure that he's doing exactly what I had been talking about before. He's just hanging in behind there. He's letting Simone kind of carry him along. So I don't know that there's really going to be much of a battle here. I think Ayrton's racing smart once again.
Yes, and I think it's time to have a look at the organizer of this event, Konrad Hutten. Currently sitting in 13th place. He's actually behind Ayrton if the leaderboard is telling me correctly, but he's a fair way back. And there his car just gone off in front of him, car number 31, which is a back marker. So Konrad is trying to move his way forward from that disastrous start of his, Joe.
Yeah, that little pink and red car is continuing to work his way back through. I think we're seeing a lot of guys make comebacks in this race, and they've got a lot of time to do it, thankfully. You know, the old racing adage goes, if you want something bad to happen, you want it to happen early on so you can make up for your mistakes. And these guys seem to be taking that to heart. So Konrad's done a good job with these things. I have to say, I'm really impressed. These are a lot of fun. There's a huge number of drivers to get involved with these things, which is not easy to get so many people on board with an idea. So kudos to Konrad.
Well, and right now I'm watching a fantastic battle for 21st place between Chris Moran, Harry Gosling, and Eric Garcia. Just watched Chris pass on the outside of the hairpin over Eric Gosling, who just now attempted to make a move on the inside of 130R. Chris has gone very deep on the outside, and all three come back into line for the Casio Triangle. That's some tough driving right there.
Every bit of track being used, nothing spared. But Chris Moran has done a good job of being able to hold him back. Now, Chris is one of those nice, consistent, but relatively fast drivers. And I think, honestly, I would expect him to move up a little bit higher than 23rd as this race progresses.
Well, he did take an early pit stop, and so I think we're seeing the effects of that. But I think he's trying to be a little more conservative than he normally is at this track, so I hope this works well for him.
Yes, and this, we haven't talked much about it, but this is a very, very technical track, and pretty much any car that you drive it in, even though it's very fast, so it tends to bring out the mistakes in people. I've seen attrition really play a role in many of these races. The drivers that are more precise are probably going to be the ones that manage to bring themselves a little higher up in the field. Wouldn't you agree, Kevin?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, guys, just having a look at another of familiar faces from the Blondie series, and the gentleman I'm looking at is Jer Yanis. Now, I'm really surprised to see Jer again in 26th place. It's quite a feature of this race that guys who are top contenders in various series that we know about or cover are not doing that well in this showdown of the best MX-5 drivers around, Joe.
Yeah, it's a different style of driving, especially from the Blondie series, which is quite shorter. Those races tend to be roughly 40 to 45 minutes. Even though that's a decently long race, it's still a sprint race compared to this. There's only 1 pit stop involved in this versus 4 here. So strategy comes way more into play, endurance comes way more into play. So you're going to see, I think, just slightly different set of guys shuffle themselves towards the front. And Jari Ylimäinen is one of those that obviously maybe hasn't come to grips with this style of racing quite yet, or maybe he's just one of a late bloomer sort of drivers when it comes to endurance racing, hangs in the back and then pushes it towards the end. We'll have to wait and see. But in the meantime, I'm looking up at the top now that most of the pit stops have cycled through because Clive has now gone in, and Wojciech Świderwick has now regained the lead. Sergio Mora, though, is only 4 seconds behind, and he was much farther back if I recall right. So he's made up a lot of time, and Tuomas Hallinen is right behind Sergio with Danny Conlon right behind them. So that pack of 3 from 2nd to 4th is all together, and don't seem to be battling too hard at the moment. So they could be trying to reel Wojciech in.
And would you believe it, Jesper Pedersen at this point in time, I'm not sure whether he's pitted yet, but he's currently showing in 6th place, and coming up on a Team 49 Motorsports car. Would that be Dexter Castro?
That is indeed Dexter Castro, and Jesper did just complete his pit stop, so I'm not going to say that he's not going to finish in the top 10, maybe top 5 yet.
Yes, he's currently sitting 17th or 16th, I believe.
Good battle here. Right. Good battle between Dexter. Is taking it to him. I wonder how long he can hold out Jesper, who is the fastest guy from the qualifying.
Yeah, and I think he's giving Dexter just a little bit of room, which I think is smart, because we've, from our experiences with Dexter, he tends to get a little bit in trouble. His situational awareness is admittedly not the best of many drivers, though he's very, very fast. So I think he's smart to maybe give Dexter just a little bit of space and maybe wait for the right time instead of going around the outside of Tegner 1 again or something ridiculous. But he's lost a little bit of space. He's going to come back in from the draft as they come up to spoon. Kevin, if you were Jesper, how would you try and get around Dexter?
Well, that's a good question. We do know Dexter's fast. He's tough to pass. This is a tough track to pass. I don't know what Jesper's strategy is right now. I suspect that he's probably going to have to sit behind Dexter for a lap or 2 before he can try and figure out where his move will be.
I don't think so. I think he's just going to blow by him before 130 as he's doing right now.
And he slots right back in line even before the turn comes, so Dexter's not going to get a chance to defend at all, and he just grabs onto the draft as they head towards the Casio Triangle. Done and dusted is Dexter Castro by Jesper Pedersen. Next up is Stefan Overgaard, and then it's Ayrton Ellis, so Jesper already up into the top 10.
Yes, he's making some really good moves, and I would expect him in a 2-hour race. You mentioned earlier on, Joe, that this was a an endurance 2-hour race. Now, in theory, that is true, but if you looked at the start, it seemed to me like it was a 2-hour sprint race. What do you think?
Yeah, and you could argue that it is a 2-hour sprint race in the fact that you've got a series of 4 sections to go through because there's 3 pit stops, so it's split up into quarters. And you could be, there's not enough time really, I think, to really wear out the car, wear out the tires. You can overheat them if you're not careful, if you're driving sloppy. But it's not, since they are limited on fuel, you could argue that it is a series of sprint races because you're pushing the entire time. But having driven, with endurance series such as the CESCS, my mentality personally would be to not take it, 10 tenths, but to take it maybe 9 tenths until you get down to the end where you can really tell where you're gonna wind up. We're going to take a really quick break as the music starts to rise up. Kevin, as we're a little over the way in, Kevin and Richard, what are each of you guys' prediction on the winner?
Well, I think Wojciech is looking just too strong right now to pass up, even though he's got some fast guys behind him. I think he's got enough of a gap to maybe solidify this one right now.
Yeah, if you're asking me to make a prediction, and you will remember my prediction from last night was all I predicted was that the gentleman I chose immediately got lost his connection to the internet and was out of the race. So I'm going to be out front there and say that Sergio Mora, who was a contender in the last Super Showdown, will be there at the finish. I don't know whether he will win, but he will be there at the finish, I'm thinking.
Well, I'm gonna make a call out in the wild and say that Jesper is gonna come back and dominate them all somehow. But we're gonna go to break, enjoy the music, and we'll see you guys in a second. Welcome back to the MX-5 Super Showdown held at Suzuka International Racing Course. We are currently 19 laps in and about 48 minutes in, so we're not quite halfway through this race. We're just going to give you a special feature here as per request of the organizer Konrad Hutten, and we're going to give you a view of the cars as they go by in the hairpin as we go down the field, give just a little bit of a tidbit about each person. Let's start with Wojciech Ruidewicz. Now, this guy has obviously been very dominant this race, and we did see him up front last race, and he is currently leading.
In second place is Sergio Mora, who has been gradually moving closer and closer to Wojciech for the overall lead.
Then behind him, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And in third place we have Danny Conlon, who is actually a driver that drives a lot in the Solstice. He's in third place.
He's doing pretty good. And fourth, we've got Tuomas Hallinen, who, as I said, a real-life driver, is making quite a bit of progress. Then in 5th, it's Luke Van Schaik, who we haven't seen a whole lot of, but obviously he's made good progress up the field. Then Simone Rossini, who made an early mistake trying to get by Ayrton Ellis, has been doing good and currently leading him around. Ayrton is in 7th. He started in 8th and had moved his way all the way up into 3rd before he was tipped out. Then 8th is Stefan Overgaard, who has also made steady progress. He didn't qualify that high, but he's certainly made good progress. Is Neil McLaughlin, also a bit anonymous this race, but has moved up and has proved himself to be steady and with a fair amount of speed. And then 10th is Anthony Goodale. What's the next 10 look like, Kevin?
11th is Clive Lawrence, who we mentioned briefly when he did take the overall lead for a while. 12th, Euro Stolenko. 13th, Simon Palmer. 14th, our pole position qualifier Jesper Peterson. 15th, Dexter Castro. 16th, Andre Kuna. 17th, Omar Zanke, who has been battling with Andre for most of this race. 18th is Benjamin Lanouette. 19th, our series organizer Konrad Hutten. And 20th is Eric Garcia. Richard.
Thanks, Kevin. And in 21st place we have Harry Gosling, who I don't know anything about. George Fike, as I said, a known MX-5 driver from a little way back. We have in 22nd place Sif Alea. Andy Morgan brings out the 24th place. Stefan Morien, whom we do know from the Blondie series, the CES series, and a few other series as well, is in 25th. Simon Van Dooney is in 26th place. Mike McCloskey in 27th. Marcus Meyer is a known fastie from the MX-5 GT Cup. Wayne Morgan, and in 30th place it's showing as Tori Tesla. Back to you, Joe.
Thank you. And 31st, it's Harley Lewis. 32nd is Tian Dames. Then in 33rd, we've got Danny Shabesta. 34th is Adam Allen. And 35th, we see Alexis Molina, who we're very familiar with from the CESCS. He's been just kind of holding on here. He's usually a faster Mustang driver. Clearly, the MX-5 is not his shtick. 36th is Paul Hayward. 37th is Stefan Westrup. Then 38th is Gary Jackson. 39th, we mentioned a little earlier, Jiri Yanis struggling apparently, 2 laps down. 40th, also 2 laps down, is Miguel Perez. Kevin?
41st is John Whitehouse. 42nd, Chris Moran. 43rd, Dion Phillips. 44th, Marco Mogren. 45th, Dwayne Stoddart. 46th, Amjad Yaman. 47th, Trent Smith. And 48th is Stephen Van Hilstingen. And 49th, our last position DNF, is Heinrich Lorenz.
So a number of guys have gone out, as we mentioned. Even though some accidents have happened, there are people who are still continuing on. Marco Mogren, Dwayne Stoddart, Amjad Yaman, Trent Smith, Stephen Hellstrom, and Heinrich Lorenz are all our non-finishers currently. So let's find ourselves a little bit of a battle now that we've familiarized the field with everyone and where they sit. Now, I noticed that Ayrton Ellis was still continuing to hold on to Simone Rossini, but Luke Van Schaik has joined that train and is now behind Ayrton.
That is correct, and it's going to be quite a little battle that'll take place here. We mentioned that Luke Van Schaik is a known fast driver from the GT Cup. Ayrton we know very well, and of course Simone is a very fast guy and featured quite prominently in the last showdown. So these three, it remains to be seen how they who's going to come out on top amongst those three. Kevin?
And I'm watching the battle for 9th place. Anthony Goodell has that position right now, and he's followed closely by Clive Lawrence, Yuri Shkolenko, Simon Palmer, and Jesper Peterson is only about a second behind that group. So, or actually, excuse me, he's right on the tail of that group. So this is quite a little battle, and I'm watching Jesper Peterson move to the inside of Simon Palmer. Oh, shoot, I just lost it. And he does have on the outside of the hairpin. That looks like it's going to be a position for Jesper again.
Drives clean around Simon. Very good stuff from Jesper. Now his gap to the leader is currently 40 seconds. It's been maybe about a dozen or so laps since we last checked that. So he's making what sounds like about half a second a lap or so, something around that there. He's gained about 9 seconds since we last looked. So he's making progress, but I just don't think that it's going to be enough for him to gain on the leaders as we're getting very close to the halfway mark, Kevin.
Yeah, this is a tough call, and it's going to require a lot of work, but it's a long race still. We've got about 66 minutes left still in the race, and with Suzuka being such a difficult course, it's not outside of the realm of possibility.
Very much so. We did say that attrition plays its part. We've already seen that happen. Anthony's doing a pretty good job. You mentioned him earlier of holding all these guys back. And Richard, whoa, as Jesper makes a wild dive up into the Casio triangle there, taking Uros. So he's working his way to the top of this thing, Richard.
Yeah. Even though he is progressing through the field at a fairly rapid rate at this point in time, he is still some 40 seconds back from Wojciech, and you have to remember Wojciech is cruising at the moment. He's got a 5-second lead on Danny Conlon, and he doesn't have to extend himself at this point in time, as we see Jesper pass another guy heading towards the front. So, you watch Wojciech once Jesper, if he does get up to race him, it'll be a different Wojciech you'll see there, Joe.
Probably way more aggressive. And I think it's worth noting that we're getting some more pit stops going on. Stefan Maurienne was in lap 17, Stefan Westrup 18, Stefan Overgaard was in lap 20, Neil McLaughlin was in this lap, so was Uros Valenko and Simon Palmer, which was part of that group we were just watching. So a number of guys are starting to take round 2 of pit stops at 56 minutes in. Which is a little bit early, but not impossible. Maybe they're just trying to get out of the pack, or maybe they're just trying to pit together, since I know a number of them pitted together. But Richard, as you would say, it's all going down.
Yes, that's true. And we are in the pit window, sort of. We're 56, almost 57 minutes down. And we did calculate that roughly half an hour to 35 minutes you can get on a tank of fuel. So if we're not in the pit window, we are approaching the pit window, Kevin.
Right, and so now we just have to see what the strategy everybody's going to take. We do know, speaking of strategy, that our second and third place drivers, Danny Conlon and Sergio Mora, are still just kind of teamed up, and they've slowly been whittling down Wojciech's lead. It's currently about 4.3 seconds on track right now, so they're running well, but I don't know if they've got the speed to make this happen right now.
Yeah, it's definitely going to take those two working together, because Wojciech is just a demon on the gas. So it's going to take something special. Tuomas Hallinen is quite a little ways back. He's about 12.5 seconds behind Wojciech last time by, but still holding fourth. And where did he qualify? He qualified in 18th from what I'm seeing. So Tuomas Hallinen, I would have to say, he is one of the movers of this race, Richard.
Yes, and as we're watching these guys, you can see that they're coming up on George Fike now. This is Sergio Mura and Danny Conlon. And I'm pretty sure they'll make short work of George Fike, who is a steady cruiser, sort of like the Hero Kanaya of the Blondies series, Joe.
Yeah, and we'll have to kind of keep an eye on some of these back markers as well, because some of these faster guys might not be as used to having to be lapped, because it's the same class and George just tells them to go on by right now. So good on him for giving clear communication, which is really one of the key points in being a back marker, making it obvious both with your car language and with your physical speaking language what you want them to do, since they do have radio and can speak to one another in iRacing. And he's now letting Sergio by. And
a break in there, Konrad just had another contact with, I believe, either Benjamin Lanuit or Andre Kuna. I believe it's Andre Kuna. So he's a little bit in the wars today, Joe.
Yeah, he's not has been as clean as I think you've liked. That looks like Stefan Westrup, who he had contact with. And, you know, oh, yeah, that looks like that it's exactly as I told you. It's just a miscommunication. Konrad was going around the outside, which I don't know that I would have done, because that was very, very tight in there after Westrup had made a mistake. But it doesn't seem like he's too damaged. He just took a slice along the side of the car, and he lives to fight another day. we're getting information that Westrip has actually had to go into the pit, so he must have taken just one of those unfortunate hits that gets just the right part of the car that damages your suspension or some other, which can definitely happen in this car, and it's very unfortunate when it does happen. But Kevin, it's interesting how it's all started with just a whole bunch of stuff going on, a lot of contact, and now things have relatively settled down.
Yeah, I kind of thought this might happen as drivers would be aggressive at the beginning when they were close together, since this is such a difficult track to pass each other on, that I thought that drivers might just take any chance they could get, and we saw a little bit of that, and we're still seeing a little bit occasionally. But now that the guys have kind of spread out a little bit, they're able to kind of take a step back and take a deep breath and be a little smarter about the decisions they're making.
Very much so. All right, well, seems we have a battle with Omar, and I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch who that was, and Andre.
Andre Kuna.
And that is for 13th and 12th position. So they're in the upper reaches of the midfield, and it's definitely worth some bragging rights if they can get their way into the top 10. So I'm sure those guys are going to be fighting hard, as looks like Omar's taking a look on the inside of turn 1. He's pretty far back. Yeah, I was going to say he better back out of that one. They've got Konrad actually right behind them. Although Andre continues to look on the inside of Omar through the second corner there and doesn't quite have enough to get it. We have just recently hit the halfway mark, by the way, so we are an hour into this thing, and it looks like we've got quite a fierce little battle going on here, Richard.
Yes, and I would expect Konrad to come out on top of this little battle, but at the moment Omar's holding him off. Omar's looking ahead to Andre Kuna and trying to get a position back into 12th place. But Konrad will definitely have something to say about this shortly, I believe, Joe.
Yeah, I imagine that he'll get a little bit mixed up in his... If I was him, though, since these two are fighting pretty hard, it seems like, I'd wait for the right opportunity, which he seems to have done, as he gets the inside of the hairpin and clean by before the hairpin. So Konrad makes very short work of Omar Zanchi. Now he's got Andre Kuna ahead of him as they exit the hairpin now. He's going to have a little bit of a draft, but I don't think he's going to get close enough into Spoon, Richard.
Well, we shall see. Spoon, Konrad's a specialist at the Spoon, and I think we'll see him make a move on Andre into the Spoon. Yes, he goes to the inside as Andre goes wide, and Andre manages to hold on to the position, but Konrad does make the pass effective, and he has now moved up another position into 12th place. Joe?
Now, I was going to say that was just a flat-out mistake from Andre, because he went very, very wide, but it almost looks as though he was just letting Konrad by, maybe suspecting since he's got more pace, there's no point in fighting him. But whatever he did, he's managed to continue to hold Omar behind him, so at least he's only lost one position in this, and they can live to continue their battle while Konrad just breezes on by.
Yes, maybe he was a little intimidated as well by Konrad, but needless to say, Konrad now has the 12th position, and he has now got to look about another 6 or 7 seconds to his next victim or the next passing maneuver. So he's a fair way back from the next part of the group of the pack. Joe, sorry.
And I'm going to jump in. Ayrton Ellis has spun and crashed into the wall, and I think his race is over.
Oof. Let's see if we can get a replay on that.
Yeah, he's got moving again. He still looks as if he's got some speed, but obviously hitting the wall is not good for anybody.
Yeah,
Dear, oh dear. Bit of damage
like
there. Doesn't look too bad though.
He's
still definitely moving, Kevin.
No, he missed the wall. I'm sorry, I miscalled that.
It's okay. He's living to fight another day, but he's definitely lost a fair bit of time, at least 6 or 7 seconds from that half spin. He's probably thanking his lucky stars that he managed to avoid the wall, really, because that's a fast portion through that left-hander of the Dunlop curve. But
and he spins again, or he goes onto the grass certainly. So must have a bit of damage because his car is not traveling too well at the moment, Joe.
Yeah, he's damaged on his right rear, and I think this is causing him all his problems. I'm trying to find out where he acquired that damage right now.
Well, while Kevin continues to look that up, it seems that it's just not been the race that Ayrton wanted. In the meantime, let's head back up to Simone Rossini, because I know Luke Van Schaik had been hanging with those two. And actually, looks like Luke has dropped back a little bit, but Simone continues to hold on to 4th place. And I'm willing to bet that if he can make some inroads onto guys like Danny Conlon and Sergio Mora, he's going to want to hop himself up to the top. And actually, I'm sorry, I'm looking... Okay, for a second I thought the Wojciech had lost the lead, but he's actually pitting currently. Danny Conlon and Sergio Mora have yet to make theirs. They're still out on track. Richard?
Yes, and Ayrton has entered the pit road, and that's a wise move after a spin and some damage. I believe they have fast repairs on, so he'll be having a brand new car when he comes out of the pits again.
Yeah, unfortunately for Ayrton, he was passing a lapper on the pit straight, and the lapper moved back into Ayrton before he was clear, and that definitely caused him some significant damage on his right rear.
And the field is streaming past Ayrton now, so he's dropping back. He's currently showing in 14th position as he exits the pits, Joe.
Yeah, this is clearly going to cost him. So that just goes to show how much care you have to take, even with slower cars. You can't really be bum rushing through this whole thing. I'm looking, and one thing I think worth considering, that even though Jesper Pedersen has had to work his way back up through, his strategy seems to have been thrown off somewhat or something. I noticed that he pitted last time, it was lap 16 or so, and he's continuing on about an hour and 6 minutes into this thing. So he might just be slightly off kilter compared to everybody. Maybe he could short fuel his final stop and make up just a little bit more ground and make a little bit of headways farther up the field.
Yes, he's currently in 6th position behind Luke Van Schaik, so he does have a fair way to go. A couple of seconds in it there. Where is he from the lead? 35 seconds. So in the time that we spoke about him previously, when he was charging through some of the pack, he was about 40 seconds back. He's only made up 5 seconds on the lead, so I don't know that he has enough time to get to the front, Joe.
Yeah, I think it's becoming pretty clear that it's going to take something miraculous. But I do notice that Sergio Mora has now currently pitted. And the curious thing about that is that he has been working with Danny Conlon for quite a while now. And I don't know if it was through lack of communication or they weren't working as close as we assumed. Danny Conlon has continued on while Sergio has pitted. So those two might not have one another to hold on to unless they have very close pit times and whatnot, and lap times. So I'm a little bit surprised by that, because we saw last time at Spa that guys were actually getting on the radio and saying pitting now, going in together and making up time with that. I think this is going to ultimately hurt them, Kevin, in trying to chase down Wojciech.
I think I'm in agreement with you there. I think these guys really need the draft that they can pick up to really help them out, seeing as how there's the driver talent here is just so equal. But maybe they're concerned that they're being held up. That's the only answer I can give you at this moment.
Well, we did mention that Jesper Pedersen is off strategy, but this has moved him up to the podium in 3rd place currently. So that's an interesting turn of events, and it looks like he's actually ahead of Sergio. So he still has to serve his pit stop, so he's going to lose some time. But he's been working his way up. That would actually move him into 2nd, if I recall right.
Yeah, Jesper just overtook a car who got a bit wide and put some wheels off into the dirt. So this may be fortuitous for Jesper. But he has to pit at some stage, and then he'll start dropping back again. So it remains to be seen. As we see Clive Lawrence now sitting on the leaderboard in 4th place. So this is the confusing time when everybody's having their pit stops, and we'll have to wait until the pit stops work through to see what the real positions are again, Joe.
Yeah, you're correct that Clive has not done his yet, but he's actually got Wojciech right behind him as he comes in onto Spoon Curve right there. Makes a clean pass as they drift around to the curbs. And who is that behind him catching up? Is that a lapped car? That's Mike McCloskey. It is a lapped car. He's down in 29th. So Wojciech continuing to make progress. Clive Lawrence, I don't think he's doing too bad, because every time we take a look, even if he's not, up amongst these top 5 when pit stops is cycled through, he seems to be among the top 10. And Clive has qualified in 20th. So much like Tuomas Hallinen, he's proved his race pace is way better than his qualifying pace, Richard.
Yes, and just a little way back from him, we're looking at Dexter Castro, currently in 6th place on the board. I believe that Dexter's having quite a good race this time around. He seems to have kept out of trouble, and he's been progressing slowly but surely towards the front of the field, Kevin, as he pits.
And I do want to point out that our pole position driver of Jesper Pedersen is now sitting in the lead for the first time since the first lap. And if he doesn't pit this lap, this will be the first lap that he will have officially led 70 minutes into this race.
That's not one that we expected to be coming. As his pace has shown that he is just the Gregor Hutu of this place. But wow, good on him. And Wojciech is actually not too far back, like 11 seconds back from what I'm seeing on the timing screen. But he will leapfrog him in the pits once those cycle through. In the meantime, let's see, Sergio Mora is... let's see, he's actually not too far back. I'm looking in there maybe about the distance of the Degner curves away from Sergio and Wojciech.
Yeah, Sergio Mora was my pick. I have to say, though, that just looking at the cars and the attitudes of the drivers in their cars, their confidence levels, which you can basically see when you watch a car going around the track. If a car's tentative or damaged, you can see it. Wojciech is looking very, very strong. Kevin, what do you think?
I'm in absolute agreement with that. Wojciech does look strong. I think he's the guy that's got the best shot at the win right now, unless something truly bizarre happens to him or to this field in general.
Well, I think we saw it last week that it ain't over until it's over, especially with these long endurance races, and there's a lot of developments that can happen, and we're probably going to be seeing some unexpected turns. So I think Sergio is going to get an opportunity here or there. It's mostly going to be, if you ask me, who can stay out of trouble, who can keep rifling off those decently fast laps without putting themselves in a bad position. And I think Sergio is still sitting very pretty, if not for the win, for at least a podium. And Sergio actually just got collected. I'm sorry, Sergio. I just incurred the commentator's curse. So Sergio got a little bit of damage from that. Let's watch the replay and see what exactly happened. It looks like that's Stephen Westrup, who we've seen just a little bit. He had contact with Konrad Hutten earlier. What exactly happened to him here?
The track and into Sergio. Mind you, it wasn't a heavy contact, so Sergio continues on from there. But disappointing for him, no doubt, to see a car come off the wall and right in front of you. That is
and I do want to point out that was Andy Morgan and not Stephen Westrup.
Yes, thank you. I was just about to correct myself on that. So yeah, Richard. I mean, it's good that only one car got collected, but still just unfortunate. Yeah, I know. For me, I always feel absolutely terrible if I take anybody out from a mistake that's my own. So I'm pretty sure he's probably getting on the radio and apologizing profusely. Well, that neuters some of the battle that we were hoping to see between Wojciech and Sergio, but there's still only 11 seconds between Wojciech and Jesper Pedersen, who has yet to take his second pit stop, Richard.
That's correct. So Jesper, at the moment, while he is leading the race, is not actually leading because Wojciech has pitted. Jesper still has to pit. Our friend Clive Lawrence, who still has not pitted, he's got some of that magic juice in his tank, because surely if he had pitted, he hasn't shown the pace to warrant that third place, Kevin.
Yes, and they're running real well. I got to admit, though, that right now I'm watching the battle for 7th with Thomas Hallen and Simone Rossini and Luc van Schaik. These guys have been kind of trying to show each other their nose the last couple of laps. So this one's definitely got some action going on, as right now they're a little settled up, and they are coming up on some lappers in front of them.
Yeah, and Luc
And
van
one of
Schaik,
those cars is Konrad Hutten, just in front of them, I believe. So these guys are having a good old battle. Simon has a bit of a look there, but decides against doing anything through the spoon. Konrad Hutten just flashed past my screen, and these guys are coming up. This is going to be a good battle here, Joe.
absolutely. And I'd like to point out that Luc van Schaik once again has pulled himself up to the tail of this thing, and seems to be willing to pick up the pieces should anything happen between these two. And I'm willing to bet you that he will be grasping at straws should some action go down. Simone, in the meantime, is really putting the pressure onto Tumas as they come to the Casio Triangle. Under braking, everyone stays in line, but I can tell that Simone is definitely getting very close. In fact, wow, under acceleration, Simone had a much better exit, and Tumas is very much under threat. Is he going to defend? No, he's going to show Simone the inside. Simone going to take a look on the inside of turn 1. That's going to be a very hairy proposition. He's going to have to be gutsy. He's continuing to hold the inside. He's all the way up to the same length, and Tumas lets him have it.
Yeah, actually, that particular as Tumas goes really wide there, miscalculated, and comes back on track safely, but has lost a fair bit of time there, Joe.
So I don't think he intended to do that. I think he wanted to let Simone have the inside, because he did back off fairly early and then just went wider than he anticipated. Got off. There are no marbles for him to get into, but there is definitely that strip of green on the outside that can throw you off. So in the meantime, that gives Luc van Schaik one more position. So Simon Rossini up into 6th and Luc up into 7th.
Yes, and I was going to say earlier that that particular corner, the one coming up the main straight, if you do get on the inside of somebody, you're virtually assured that the corner is going to be yours. It is very, very difficult to try and do anything from the outside on that corner, Joe.
Absolutely, but as we saw from the days of Prost and Senna, you can't just stick a nose in there. You've got to be fully up inside of someone to make it work. But Simone is not over yet. You mentioned Konrad on the screen earlier, and Simone has already caught up to Konrad. He's got the pace, apparently, and he's very much threatening the league organizer, hoping to demote him one more position and grab 5th.
And we did have our leader, Jesper Peterson, did serve his second pit stop. He has rejoined in 8th place, and he is about 34 seconds behind the overall leader, Wacek. So he is slowly catching Wacek, but not really enough right now to really make this work at the overall win at this moment.
It's definitely looking like a possibly top 5 if he's able to continue this sort of pace. Excuse me, but it's definitely a tall order, but Jesper is apparently a tall man, so he's making it happen. In the meantime, Simone is pulling in to Konrad coming into the Casio Triangle, takes a look to the inside but decides better of it, and slots back in line. Luc van Schaik continues to let Simone drag him along up through the paces as he closes in on Simone through the chicane as well. But now there's been a lot of time lost between Simone and Konrad coming down that front straightaway. Interesting that he didn't quite get enough on it, Richard, and lost at least 3 or 4 car lengths on him.
Yeah, that's correct. Also, Konrad, realizing who's coming up behind him, no doubt, has stepped up the pace, I feel, a little bit. And these guys are coming up to a slower car, so this is the battle at the moment. 3 really fast guys. The big winner, I feel, out of all of this is, in fact, Luc van Schaik. He's quietly sitting behind. He's sitting behind Simone and letting him do the work, and just sitting there, picking up the pieces, or hoping to pick up the pieces if anything goes wrong between the guys in front of them.
And guys,
Konrad lets him by. I'm sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
The lapper Gary Jackson that was in front of Simone Rossini and Konrad Hutten got loose on the outside of Dunlop, letting them by. The 7th place car whom he collected, and I'm trying to find out who that was right now.
Thomas Hollinen, the black car.
No, Thomas did keep going.
Yeah, Thomas, I can see Thomas, he's just in front of Konrad at this point in time, so it certainly wasn't him. Konrad has lost out a number of positions there, but not sure who that guy was you were talking about, Kevin.
It was Tian Dames was unfortunately collected. That's just unfortunate all the way around. There was nothing he could do to avoid the spinning Gary Jackson. And
Well,
Jasper Peterson managed to squeak by. That was very close on his end.
Absolutely. Well, like I was saying earlier, you can't tell what's going to happen in racing. It's not over till that checkered flag comes down. I'm looking back up at the leaders since we haven't checked in with them recently. Sergio Mora continues to hold on about 5.8 seconds back from Wojciech. He's lost maybe about a second or so. We're on lap 31. We're we're an hour and 20 minutes into this thing. So we're getting very close to the next set of pit stops. And I'm hearing that it's actually 4.4 seconds between Wojciech and Sergio. Yes, it has come down now that they've crossed the line. So actually Sergio is making progress on Wojciech. That's interesting, Kevin.
Yeah, it seems like Sergio may be getting a little better luck with lap traffic and moving through. It seems like when both cars are in clean air with no other cars around them, they're running about similar lap times. But Wojciech seems to keep getting slowed up a little bit more by lap cars than Sergio is.
Now, a little bit farther down, Danny Conlon was actually the one leading Sergio for a number of laps. And like I told you, that I was shocked that they weren't working together. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe Sergio was playing it patient, because Danny, last time by, was 10 seconds back from Sergio. So either it was the lap traffic, as you mentioned, or something wrong with his strategy, or something has sent Danny a little bit farther down the field. Richard, we've talked a little bit about the leaders now, but they're not close enough for a battle. Do you see anything interesting going on a little bit farther down the field?
No, I haven't been. I've been watching the battle up front and just having a look at some facts and figures. So we've got about 15 seconds covering the top 3, and then we have a further 7 seconds back to Simone Rossini in 4th place, where, if anything, that's where the battle is. So we might go and have a look and see how Simone and Luke and Thomas are going.
Yes, and Thomas is actually closing up on Luke under the braking for the hairpin as they slot by another lapped car that looks to be Harley Lewis, who they have just put down another lap, who is currently scored in 28th. But yeah, the battle for 5th and 6th looks to be going pretty fierce. And you know, I had not heard of Luke before this. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but I have to say I'm fairly impressed. He's not a very whiz-bang driver, but 5th place is nothing to scoff at, and he's done some fairly clever things to work his way up there, I would say, Richard.
Quite so, and I do know Luke very well. I've raced against Luke. In fact, I recall a race we had recently at Phillip Island in Australia, where Luke and I were wheel to wheel virtually the whole race.
And he's going side by side with Thomas around 130R, but both of them managed to hold it together, which is very impressive. And Luke's going to have the inside to try to defend, but he gives up. He brakes very early and lets Thomas by for the 5th place position, Kevin.
And that car behind them is Harley Lewis, who is sitting at 28. So he's not looking for position. He's just trying to avoid crashing out these top 5 competitors.
You talk about Harley Lewis. I raced against Harley Lewis yesterday, as it turns out, at this very track in the official races. Harley was charging hard for a little while, but then he got caught up with a few Jetta drivers. So he's pretty much a charger, but not that sensible a driver, I'm afraid.
We've actually, weirdly, we've got Gary Jackson, who is stopped in turn 1. I'm not sure what was going on there. I'll take a look back and see if he incurred any damage. I did see him slowing down earlier and thought that he had maybe just let the leaders by. In fact, he's exiting the pits from what I can see before he came out. So he obviously can't have something like a loose wheel or something. Maybe he just didn't fill enough fuel. He seems to be taking off and continuing on fine now. That's a bit of a bizarre one, guys.
I'm wondering if he was just trying to let cars by into turn 1 without coming out in the middle, but it's the best I can give you.
Well, in the meantime, we've got a battle for what looks like 23rd and 24th. Marcus Meyer is trying to hunt down Simon Van Dujny, and he's definitely holding. Well, he was holding up on the back of him, and it seems that he's lost contact with him now, Kevin.
Yeah, I've been keeping half an eye on this for a couple of laps. They've been relatively close together, but I'm not entirely sure they're running consistent laps at each other's pace. It seems like they keep making small bobbles to help them move closer and further away, as we see Simon make a bobble into the Casio Triangle, and that allowed Marcus to close right up.
Yeah, he's very close now. That draft is going to bring him in on the front straightaway. He's going to take a look on the inside. Most likely he takes a little bit of a peek. And now he goes for a definite move. He makes his intentions clear. He's not all the way up inside. This is what we were talking about earlier. This can be risky, but Simon's going to... Oh, he breaks a little bit early, but he doesn't give up the position. They go side by side through 1, and then Marcus just makes it a clean pass on into 2. Richard?
That is exactly what I was talking about earlier, Joe, where you find that once you attain the inside line into that particular corner, you're virtually assured of a pass unless the other driver on the outside is extremely brave. But the nature of that corner is that you're always going to be pushed wider and wider, and it's very risky to try and maintain your position if you're on the outside.
Now, I'm looking over some of the text chat, and I'm not sure exactly when this went down, or if we had seen this. I find it interesting that Jesper Pedersen had typed something of use F3, Gary, so obviously not happy with back marker of someone or the other. And as we've seen today, back markers seem to be one of the stories to follow, as guys have either just not been aware or been making mistakes, or clearly just taken fast cars out.
The other battle that has been going on for the last couple of laps is the battle for 15th place right now, or excuse me, 16th place between Anthony Goodale and Andre Kuna. And Goodale had been chasing down Andre Kuna for the last several laps, and finally was just able to get around him as they approach the front straight right now.
And there was a little bit of contact between those two cars. And in fact, enough that Anthony Goodale has now slowed down and let Andre by. So that was also a bit of a curious maneuver. Andre, it wasn't a complete slam. He just kind of got up into the back of Anthony and was almost pushing him, it looked like, for a second.
Yeah, I do know Anthony Goodale well as well. A lot of these guys race in the GT Cup, and at some point or another I've seen virtually all of these drivers race. Anthony Goodale is no slouch behind the wheel, and yet he's sitting down in 17th place, so he may have had a little bit of drama, although it seems that his car looks completely whole, and he's having a really good battle here with Andre Kuna.
And guys, our overall leader, Wojciech Srdovic, spun coming out of the hairpin, and Sergio Mora has passed him and taken the overall lead.
And even before that, it was down to 3 seconds, so Sergio was continuing to make progress. If things continue the way they were, then it looks like Sergio might have an opportunity to continue to pull away. So, Richard, I have to admit, you made a very good call on Sergio there.
Yes, but it's not over till it's over, as you said, Joe. And now we actually have a little bit of spice, because Wojciech has lost the lead. Wojciech is not going to lie down. I predict that we will see a much closer battle than we're seeing right at the minute between Sergio and Wojciech. Not too far down the track, Joe.
Yeah, there's only 2.5 seconds between them, so he hasn't lost enough to really let him run away with it. And yeah, I think you're right. I think I give it a lap or two, and Wojciech is probably going to try and reel him in with some aggressive driving. Kevin, we haven't heard from you so much lately. Have you seen any intense battles going on elsewhere?
Well, we still got this battle for fourth and fifth between Simone Rossini, Thomas Hallinan, and Luke van Schaik. It's currently Simone has gapped Thomas and Luke quite a bit, about I think 6 seconds at the moment. But Luke van Schaik and Thomas Hallinan are still nose to tail at this moment.
Yeah, Luke was pulling right up to the back of Hallinan's black MX-5, and they're coming through Degner 1 and 2 right now. He's just kind of holding station, not really making any dives or sudden moves. I'm wondering, Richard, you said you were much more familiar with Luke. Do you think we're going to see a much more aggressive Luke a little bit later in the race now that he's solidified his top position? Or do you think he's going to continue to hold his pace and stay in line?
No, that's not the Luke I know. If he possibly can, he will try and make a move on Thomas, but Thomas is a fast driver, so he'll have his hands full trying to pass him. Meanwhile, not very far behind these guys is Jesper Pedersen, about 5 seconds, so he's got a little way to make up. And our own Ayrton Ellis is in 8th place, which is where he qualified, so he's doing all right, Joe.
Yes, obviously it could have been so much more with all the troubles that he's incurred, but, you know, being able to finish where you started is still an achievement, especially in a race as long as this. So, good on Ayrton. He's only 37 seconds back from the leaders as well, but some of that is going to get shuffled around. I see a few people have been pitting recently. Eric Garcia on lap 34, Stefan Overgaard on lap 34 as well, and Harry Gosling. We're currently on lap 35, and we're an hour and 30 minutes into it, which means the pit window is very much in effect. This is the very last pit stop that we're going to be seeing from pretty much all of these guys, and I think this is going to be essentially race decide, well, not race deciding, but this is going to really make it clear who is where as far as strategy goes.
Yeah, that's correct. Sorry, Kevin, you were saying?
Well, I kind of want to go back to WatchCheck right now, who's still trying to hunt down Sergio Mora and has actually lost about a quarter of a second over Sergio. And I keep thinking, I'm wondering, you know, WatchCheck spent a good hour or so kind of driving by himself with nobody around him except for lappers. And I'm wondering if he's going to be able to regain the pace to run as quickly as Sergio, who's had that carrot in front of him for most of this race. So I think Sergio's got the upper hand right now over WatchCheck.
I would completely agree. As you were saying, you know, Sergio he was in a different state from WatchCheck for most of the race. He was hanging behind Danny Conlon, and I mentioned before he could just be playing patient instead of making an aggressive move. He might have been actually slowed down for that first part of the race. Now that he's got clear track in front of him, it seems that maybe he was playing possum a little bit there, Richard.
Yeah, Sergio has certainly extended his lead the 10th by 10th all the time, and he has the bit between his teeth now, no doubt. But I know WatchCheck too well. If you look on in Australian time on a Tuesday morning at 10:15 when the first GT Cup race takes place, WatchCheck is in there and is winning it. So I am not going to give up on WatchCheck now, even though I am with Sergio Mora for the race itself.
Well, it looks like Luke van Schaik has come in for his pit stop. I see that Andre Cunha has pitted, Neil McLaughlin has pitted, Simon Palmer has pitted, Uros Jelenko has also come in. So a few more guys getting theirs out of the way. We're going to see pretty soon how things are going to shuffle out. Let's find ourselves a bit of a battle, because we haven't, we've seen a few going on, but with pit stops things have been a little bit shaken up. Kevin, do you see anything interesting going on in the field?
Yeah, our closest battle right now is the battle for 25th between Mike McCloskey and Harley Lewis. They're currently sitting about 0.8 seconds apart, although I've seen them on the timing board get as close as about a quarter second apart. So once again, these drivers in a little further in the back are a little prone to bobbles at times, but they still are having good races and keeping themselves in it.
Absolutely. And it looks like Harley Lewis has gotten a slowdown penalty from going through the chicane, although it's sort of a moot point because now Mike McCloskey comes in for his pit stop. So once again, our efforts to give something entertaining is thwarted by the pit stops. In the meantime, let's run down the top 10 real quick. Oh, it looks like we might have a battle for 8th, actually. Let's hop over there and see what's going on there, Kevin.
Yeah, this is Luke Van Schaik and Dexter Castro sitting about a second apart, and Dexter has been slowly reeling in the top 10 and has moved his way into the top 10, and now he looks like he might be able to get something for Luke Van Schaik, as he's currently maybe a tenth a lap faster than Luke.
I would point out, though, that Dexter has not pitted from what I can see, so he still has to get his out of the way, and Luke does not. So he is effectively off strategy, although, you know, it's still in Dexter's best interest, obviously, to try and make Luke's life as miserable as possible. So I think you're right. If he can get up there, he's going to want to take the battle to Luke. So I had a point to make, and now I'm sorry I had total brain fade. I'll hand it off to Richard.
All right, well, look, if Luke is already pitted, if we can do a little bit of strategizing ourselves, the top guys, I don't know how many of them have pitted, the guys that are in front of Luke. So if he's got his pit stop out the way by this time, he'd be sitting in a pretty good position, I would imagine there, Kevin.
Yes, I'm in agreement with you there. And I do, well, no, sorry, I was going to point out that Wojciech had closed to within 2 seconds of Sergio, but now I'm seeing that gap is right back at 2.5 seconds. So Sergio Mora, our overall leader right now, still seems to be holding all the cards.
But has he pitted, has he done his final pit stop yet, do you think?
Neither Sergio nor Wojciech has done their final pit stop.
Well, that's what I mean. Now, Luke, we're saying that Luke has done his pit stop. I'm pretty sure Ayrton Ellis hasn't done his. So when it all shakes out in the next 5 minutes or so, I think we're going to see quite a different leaderboard, Joe.
Yeah, things are definitely going to get shuffled up depending on who took how much fuel, or who has, you know, how much fuel left. You're going to see people be able to save time in the pits, or you're going to see possibly a few guys try and take a gamble, I think, as the clock ticks down, because, and Sergio Mora is having a bit of trouble with some lap traffic there. Andre Kuna was kind of getting a little in the way, it seemed. But,
Wojciech is in pit. I'm sorry to interrupt, Joe.
That's okay. Yeah, with that, actually, and Wojciech is exiting the pits right now.
Just coming out of the pit right now. Sorry, Joe.
It's okay. Yeah, you can save a number of time by taking a gallon less. It takes about 10 seconds per gallon in these cars. So if you've managed to save fuel, if you're running your strategy just a little bit longer, then I think you're going to see some guys manage to jump one another in the pit stops. And I'm willing to bet you, with Jesper Pedersen just being a little bit off of things, he's currently scored in 5th from what I'm seeing, 27 seconds back. He could maybe take another 10 seconds, which is a big chunk out of these top guys.
Yep, and you know, the minimum fuel, the absolute minimum fuel you can put in these cars is 2.1 gallons. Now that will get you about 15 minutes roundabout, and I always make my calculations on that 2.1 gallons. For every 2.1 gallons in the tank, I'm going to get 15 minutes of driving on any track, basically. So we have something like 25 minutes to go. Slightly less than 25 minutes. I would be putting in not more than 3.2 gallons at this point in time, Joe.
That sounds like a smart deduction to me, and I think that it's definitely and Jesper Pedersen, I see, went a little bit wide in his spoon curve there. He's going to want to cut down on errors such as that, even though he is making time. 27 seconds now I can see between him and the leaders, but he's actually running 2:29.9 laps, which is very, very fast. In fact, 2:29.9 would get him into what looks like 11th or 12th in qualifying. So that's faster than many of the field can do just on a hot lap. He's clearly got the burners on and is trying to do what he can in the dying stages of this race, Kevin.
Yes, and it remains to see what he's able to do with his pit stop strategy. We know that Wojciech was the first one to blink, and he would theoretically have track position. Sergio Mora has stayed out another extra lap, so it's all to go down here still.
So as Danny Conlon and Simone Rossini, who continue to hold position in 2nd and 3rd, who have jumped Wojciech, but since they haven't done their pit stops.
Sorry, Joe. Ayrton comes into the pits now from 6th position. So he's going to drop possibly out of the top 10, depending on what strategy he uses here.
Yes, it's getting to be very much on the cusp here, as you said, 20 minutes in. If people can make it 5 minutes longer, they could possibly, get themselves save themselves a little bit of time in the pit stops to get that 2.1 that you mentioned. It'll be it's one to watch, that's for sure. In the meantime, I'm looking and I see Tuomas Halonen goes on by Ayrton as he comes down the pit straight. Tuomas was scored in 7th place last time by. Now, he's a guy we've been watching quite a bit, and he seems to have yo-yoed a number of times, though he's had his fair share of stuff to watch out for. But he's made a fair bit of progress. He qualified in 18th, and so despite his speed, or lack of speed in qualifying, he seems to have really made quite a bit of progress.
Yeah, and Ayrton's back out on the track, and he's managed to hold onto a top 10 position. Currently scored in 9th place, so that was a good pit stop for him, Kevin.
Well, right now I'm keeping an eye on Sergio Mora, waiting for him to enter pit lane, because I think this is pretty much going to decide who's going to take the overall lead, since he's getting balked a little bit right now by Andre Kuna, a lapped car.
Who spins?
Who spins right in front of him. That had to have been an exciting moment.
Look, so when you're being monstered by one of the really fast guys, and he comes into the pit right as we speak, so this is it. This will shake it all out, Joe.
Yes, I just want to make a quick note. I cursed Tuomas Halonen as well. He has disappeared, either discoed or he's completely gone with his internet connection, because I do not see him on course. But yes, Sergio Mora is entering the pits, which hands Danny Conlon the lead, who just crosses the start-finish line now. And so he's continuing to stay out. I'm wondering if some of these guys are looking to employ that pit strategy that we were talking about, of trying to jump people by going just that little bit longer, because it's definitely a ways past the pit window that we thought at 1 hour and 41 minutes in, Richard.
That's right. And Sergio's still in the pits. That's a rather long pit stop. He still hasn't exited, so I don't know. I think he may have lost it. The car behind him, there he comes now. He's coming out of the pits, so we'll see in what position he comes out. Will he still be able to hold on to 2nd position? Wojciech has just passed, so Wojciech was in 5th place. I think he's dropped 2 or 3 spots, Joe.
I think he's only dropped possibly a single spot, because Wojciech was the car that he was racing before this, and Wojciech has jumped him by at least what looks like 4 or 5 seconds. Need to check the timing on that. But yeah, Wojciech has definitely done a little bit of a leapfrog maneuver and gotten by him, and Wojciech is currently scored in 5th, but I think once the pit stops cycle around, that's going to move him up into 1st place possibly.
Yes, because no doubt Danny Conlon hasn't pitted, so that'll put Wojciech back in 1st and Sergio in 2nd. And Sergio's moving. Look at him take that corner, Degner 1. Just basically straight lines, Joe.
He is chucking the car through everything and doing all he can now. I think he knows that he's got to run down Wojciech. Danny, apparently, we're hearing, is going to call himself into the pits very soon, from what I think we're hearing over the radio. But yeah, oh, I'm sorry, no, he's not calling himself into the pits. What was I talking about? Anyway, Sergio back on the tail of Wojciech. He's got him within his sights. He's not too terribly far away, but now's where he's going to have to employ that pace that we were seeing a little bit earlier, where he was able to run away from Wojciech, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on Danny Conlon. Is he going to pit? No, he stays out this time by, so he will continue the overall lead.
And that's going to shuffle him into the 15-minute mark that Richard had mentioned earlier, because we're...
Excuse me, Joe, but our 2nd place car, Simone Rossini, is in pit lane right now.
So Simone getting his out of the way. He is right on the cusp of what I was just about to mention, that Richard said if you get 2.1 gallons, that's going to give you 15 minutes. And since this
Jesper Peterson is also in. Excuse me to interrupt again, Joe.
It's okay. So well, keep an eye on Jesper for me. Let me know where he shuffles out, because that's going to determine his position as far as this final stint. Danny Conlon, though, is going to reach the 1:45-minute mark, an hour and 45-minute mark, and I'm pretty sure that this is going to allow him to do some things that none of these other guys can do, and really take it to the top guys. Maybe this is going to move him into the lead, possibly.
That's right, Joe. I would only put in fuel, no tires. I would just take the 2.1 gallons of fuel and go with it as Jesper comes out of the pits. So now we will see what happens as we see guys. I see Konrad, Hutten coming up down the straight there. So don't know exactly what the positions are. We'll have to figure it out in another half a lap or so, Joe.
Well, it looks like Simone beat Jesper Peterson out by just about 3 seconds, and Luke Van Schaik is right in front of Konrad Hutten, who is apparently in front of Jesper Pedersen. So Jesper is currently 8th position overall, if I am reading that correctly. 7th position, I'm sorry. And so that's, wow, coming from what was essentially last place. That's really impressive stuff.
And I'm watching Danny Conlon. I want to see whether he's going to go into the pits as he comes down the main straight. Is he going to pit? Sorry, he's at the back straight there, heading towards 130R. Probably a few seconds more before he gets onto the front straight, so we'll leave that alone.
Yes, he's heading towards the Casio Triangle right now. Wacek is back at Spoon Curve, currently dealing with some lap traffic. Sergio Mora is continuing to try to hunt him down. Let's see. Danny's coming up to the pit lane now. Is he coming in? Yes, there he goes. This is it. It's finally his pit stop. We're going to see where this shuffles him out. In the meantime, Wacek, who is scored as 3rd, but I know he's currently 2nd. From what I can see, he's coming up on the outside of lap traffic. Is he going to let him by? Yes, he should, and Simon does, in fact, let him by. Meanwhile, let's see. We're going to have to keep a close eye on this because Wacek is coming up to the Casio Triangle right now. Where's Danny Conlon in his pit stop? He is just entering his pit lane right now, Kevin. So, do we have any idea what the bogey time is on that?
No, we don't, but what we do know is Wacek is on the main straight, and I'm pretty certain he's got this position.
I have to agree with you. So with Sergio so close behind him, I think it's a safe bet that Danny is going to shuffle back out into 3rd, so his fuel saving might have been for naught, although it will gain him a little bit of time. I know Simone is coming up to the front straightaway right now, and I don't think he's going to be close enough to get Danny, but now we can officially say that Wacek is our leader in the final stint with only 13 minutes to go, Kevin.
And that gap between him and 2nd place Sergio Mora is only about 1.7 seconds on track right now. So this is all still up in the air right now.
That's
Sergio.
right. And we have a lap car in between Sergio and Wacek. So hopefully that car will get out of the way as quickly as possible so we can see Sergio do battle for the 1st place.
Right now, that seems to be the most important battle that we've got on the track, although it's not completely into play quite yet. So let's find ourselves a battle a little ways down the line and see if we can find someone. And in fact, Luke Van Schaik is trying to hold back Jesper Pedersen, who is coming up on the inside of the Dunlop curve. Is it going to be clear by him by the Degner corners? Yes, he is. So Luke is going to shuffle behind, and Jesper Pedersen has moved his way up into 5th.
And Konrad Hutten just coming up behind Luke Van Schaik. Although Konrad he must be a lap down because he's not showing on the leader. Oh, he is indeed. So Konrad Hutten in 7th place, Jesper's up to 6th place. That is a magnificent drive, Joe.
That is extremely impressive, and we saw something like that. I believe was it Carl Williamson last time who did a burn from the stern, and wow, some of these guys, the way that they can make their way back up through the field just never ceases to amaze me. I don't think Jesper Pedersen is even done here. He's got 12 minutes to go, and Simone Rossini is only about 5 seconds up the line coming out of Spoon Curve. I'm pretty sure that he's going to have at least enough pace to get up to the back of Simone. Now getting by him, that's going to be a completely different endeavor, Richard.
That is correct, Joe. Let's just take a moment to look at this top 10. We've got a guy there that we have hardly mentioned. We have mentioned him once or twice. I know Kevin had an eye on him, and that's Clive Lawrence, currently sitting in 9th place. I would say from a driver that doesn't have a lot of, he hasn't had a lot of kudos assigned to his name, but he's done a really terrific job. Ayrton Ellis is up there in 8th place. So some guys of the lesser known drivers have really done well in this race, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely, including our own occasional pit reporter, Stefan Overgaard, who has worked himself up to 12th place with a shot at 11th. But I would like to return back to the front of the field where Sergio Mora has closed within a second of Wojciech right now for the overall lead.
And that's probably close enough to get him the draft. Wojciech is dealing with some more lap traffic. Torrey Tesla is currently in front of him, who is already a lap down. It's going to try and put him down another. Whoa, Torrey gets a little loose coming through Degner, and that's actually going to hold up Wojciech. Wojciech gets very, very close to Sergio Mora now, or rather the reverse. Sergio is within at least what looks like 4 car lengths of Wojciech. The draft is very much into play at this point.
Make that 1 car length right now. Make that 1 car length. This is the battle. 1st and 2nd place after 2 hours of drive. Well, 1 hour and 50 minutes of driving. It comes down to about 3 or 4 car lengths as it seems at the moment, Kevin.
And this is all, who knows what's going to happen, as Sergio is definitely looking very fast through Spoon, and he's going to have a great run out of Spoon, I think, into the draft right now.
Yeah, this is going to be key for him to hang on to there. But, the other important thing is, does he want to get by now? Or is, will Wojciech be able to hang in the draft of Sergio and snipe him at the end of the race if he holds on as they go by another lap car there? If you were in Sergio's place, Kevin, would you want to get him now, or would you want to wait until, maybe Wojciech is vulnerable later in the race?
I think I would try and make my move as quickly as possible. This is a tough track to pass on between 2 equal cars, and you can defend pretty easily with a little bit of strategy. So I would much rather be in front than behind. So if I'm Sergio, I'm getting in front as quickly as I can.
He drops
and
back.
I agree entirely with you there, Kevin. The problem is getting in front of Wojciech, whose car looks about 300 foot wide at the moment.
And this is a bit of a deja vu from our last race at Spa, because I remember these two were definitely 2 of our contenders for the lead there, and I know we had more cars involved with that battle, but I remember they were definitely 2 of the guys that were duking it out. Now, Sergio dropped back a little bit out of the Casio triangle, but he's continuing to reel those car lengths back in through the S's. In fact, I can physically see the gap closing as he gets closer and closer. We're currently riding on board with Sergio. You can see him easing into the back bumper of that white MX-5 of Wojciech Switterix. They're coming down the Dunlop curve towards the Degner 1 and 2. Is he going to close in under braking here? Because he seems to do that quite frequently. He closes up a little bit, but we're going to see where the acceleration lies as they come out of Degner 2. He gets very close, within a car length. He takes way more of that exit. In fact, he's a lot closer. So I would say that under braking, Sergio's got a little bit of an advantage over Wojciech.
Yes, but wisely in the hairpin, he doesn't try to make a move, because that's pretty risky. But one of the best chances is in the draft down that back straight heading towards 130R. I know it's a very risky pass at 130R, but if you can get next to the driver in front, then you've got a pretty good chance of taking the position. Kevin?
Yes, absolutely. And it does seem right now like Sergio's a little better on turn-in after braking, and so he may have an advantage, but he seems to struggle a little bit getting a good exit out of the fast corners. But he's got a nice draft right now on this back straight, as Wojciech seems to be a little defensive. He's in the middle of the track, but now he is moving to the outside, and Sergio has moved to the inside, Joe.
Yes, he takes a little bit of a peek, but he gets back in line as they go around 130R. As I was suspecting, he's probably going to wait for the Casio triangle here because he wasn't quite close enough. He lost the draft for just a little bit there, but under braking, he closes up one more time. They're completing lap 44 right now, and we are an hour and 54 minutes into this thing with about 2-minute 20 laps. I think we're going to see about 2 more laps, and that's it. Now, Wacek is very defensive as they come down the front straightaway. He goes all the way to the inside. I don't think Sergio was close enough to merit that, but I think Wacek is starting to feel the pressure, Richard.
I believe so. And that front straight is another passing area, as we've seen a number of guys get on the inside and then push the guy wide on the outside and take the place. And of course, Wacek is a wily driver. He knows that that's exactly what can happen. So he was covering that position, Joe.
Yeah, not giving him any chance to sneak on the inside. Once more through the S's, we're seeing him closing up onto the back of Wacek. Now, I think I might have called the timing a little wrong. We might actually have 3 or 4 laps left. I was thinking 4 and thinking 2 times 2, but we actually have had about 6 minutes left, which is now down to 5. So either way, it's definitely whittling down, and the chances are getting less and less for Sergio. He gets right up on the bumper of Wacek under Degner too, and he continues to take way more of that exit, Kevin, than Wacek is. I think you're right in calling that he's struggling on the exits of those corners.
Yeah, and we can see him take a wide entry into the hairpin, and he got a little loose at apex, and that's cost him maybe half a second right there. So that hurts him badly right now when he needs all the speed he can get right now.
He's going to have to hope that he can get back into that draft and get back into things. Now, I'm looking down the field. Jesper Pedersen is... I'm sorry. Jesper Pedersen just went off. Jesper Pedersen went off somewhere on the track. I can't tell exactly where that is, but he was up in the fifth.
That's the hairpin, at the hairpin, and he's come to a standstill completely. And he's got out of the car. He's going to take a tow. So that must be a pretty bad accident there, Kevin.
Oh, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but that was with lap traffic. That was Harry Gosling that got into him. They were heading towards the hairpin. Oh, and he just drifted over into Gosling. I don't think Gosling did anything wrong. Jesper just drifted his car into the corner of him. So, yeah, oh man, that's bad stuff. I was just about to say that Jesper had worked his way up into 5th and was 3 seconds back from Simone, but I guess that's not the case anymore.
I've just watched the replay. Gosling definitely came over into Jesper Pedersen, so that's really unfortunate for Jesper. But that does move the guys behind him, Luke van Schaik and Ethan Ellis, up a spot, and they are now respectively in 5th and 6th place, Joe.
Well, and we did see Wacek in the overall lead is still playing a little coyly, a little defensive on the main straight, trying to defend against Sergio as they're being held up by the lap car of who is that, Joe?
It's Danny Shabesta actually ahead of them, and he's not really doing anything to hop out of the way of these guys. So this has definitely allowed Sergio to close right up on the back of Wacek once again. Now he gets out. Well, no, he doesn't get out of the way. He's holding a wide line, but Wacek is being very cautious, probably smart. Whoa, and he has to slow down a lot. Sergio comes almost into the back of Wacek as they enter the Dunlap curve. That was an opportunity he possibly missed. He was very brave on it, but he had to back out at the last second. Wacek has gained a little bit of a buffer from that, and Sergio's got a little bit of ground to make up once again.
I have to say, boo to the driver, Danny Shabesta. That is not the way you drive when car number... when the leaders, 1st and 2nd place, are coming up on you. You be respectful and you get out of the way as far as I'm concerned, John.
I have to agree, especially when it's a race for 1st place and he didn't have anybody around him. Sometimes you have to respect back markers if they've got their own battle on, but Shabesta was just by himself, and this was a battle for the lead, which is about as important as it gets. So it certainly spiced things up, but not the way these guys won. Sergio is still holding on. He's a little ways back. He closes up under braking into Spoon, and I think the draft, whoa, he gets very close in the last part of Spoon. So the draft is definitely going to pull him in as they head towards 130R on the back straightaway. Kevin, the clock is ticking down. He's going to have what looks like about 1 lap to do this thing. I think this is going to be the white flag this time by.
Yeah, I think you're right. We're sitting on about 2 minutes 25 seconds, and that's a little faster than one lap. So it's 1 lap to go, and it's either going to be a win or a second place unless they crash out. So pretty much any solution is possible still for Sergio Mora and Wojciech.
It's all up in the air. It's 2 hours of racing, and the leaders are still together, and Sergio makes a mistake out of the Casio triangle. He gets loose. That's going to lose him a lot of time. I don't know that he's going to be able to do this in 1 lap. He is a significant chunk back. He's 2 seconds back from Wojciech at this point. Kevin, I don't think all the trying in the world is going to catch him up to Wojciech at this point without a mistake.
No, I'm in agreement with you, Joe. That's unfortunate. We've seen Sergio struggle a little bit trying to get traction on the exit, and it seems like he may have pushed it just a little too much in the Casio triangle.
Over-eagerness can kill your race. I've done that plenty of times before, and we just saw it possibly shoot Sergio in the foot. It isn't over still, but this is given some breathing room. It's all down to this last lap, all down to him hitting his apexes, hitting his marks, accelerating exactly where he needs to, keeping control of the car. Can Wojciech do it? He wasn't the winner last time. He was in the hunt for it until the very late stages of the race. But Richard, it's looking like he might get it this time.
I believe you are correct, Joe. He has defended really well against Sergio, who did try to put quite a few moves on him at times, and he's just managed to hold him off, and Sergio's made the mistake, fallen back. He's a couple of seconds back now, so I think it's all in the bag for Wojciech. Only a few more corners to go, and it's all his, Joe.
Now, our timing and scoring is showing that we are still green. We'll have to keep an eye on see if the white pops up towards the end, or if we're just going straight to checkered here, because effectively we should be done with this, as it's now past 2 hours officially. But we'll keep you updated on that. Sergio could possibly get another chance. It's still going to be a very tall order for him to run this gap down. Wojciech comes around Spoon Corner onto the back straightaway. If this is the final lap, this is essentially the last place that Sergio be fewer and fewer, or the opportunities for mistakes are going to be fewer and fewer as Wojciech comes down the back straightaway towards 130R. Sergio is still by a little, but just not enough. Through 130R, Wojciech goes down towards the Casio triangle, underbraking. We did get the white flag. Sergio did close up a little bit through the Casio triangle. Wojciech goes around the final corner, up towards the start-finish line. The checkered flag is out. Wojciech comes to the inside and takes the win. Great on him after 2 hours of hard racing. Sergio Mora comes home in second. Danny Conlin, a bit of a ways back, completes the podium. And then coming across the line now, and Luke Van Schaik, who's coming through the triangle, is going to complete the top 5. Kevin?
Well, that was a fantastic run from Wojciech. He had a little mistake and lost his overall lead, but he was pretty much the leader and had a good, clean run there for most of this race.
Absolutely, and I have to admit that I think it's safe to say that that Sergio possibly threw this one away. He clearly had the pace, and I think he had a few opportunities, but that would. Anderson is waiting in the wings, so why don't we see if he's interested in talking, since he was one of the major players. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on one second. I think we're going to wait for the entire field to cycle through here before we bring Jesper in, but let's see. We've got this. We're trying to see if we can drag a few more people in here.
I'm just watching Wojciech. He's celebrating, doing a few spins, etc. Perhaps we can call the top 10 in the meantime, or in fact go down the field and list out at least the 20 drivers who will have all crossed the finish line by now, Joe.
Yes, as I said, I read you to the top 5, which was Luke Van Schaik in 5th. Ayrton Ellis came back for an impressive 6th after being tipped around early on. Simon Palmer came home 7th. Konrad Hutten came home 8th. Good job on the organizer from coming back from some early troubles. Neil McLaughlin, and there's a lot of cars goofing around in the first corner I'm seeing. Neil McLaughlin finished 9th. Uros Jalenko finished 10th. And what's the next 10 look like, Kevin?
In 11th place, we have Stefan Overgaard. 12th is Clive Lawrence. 13th, Dexter Castro. 14th is Anthony Goodale. 15th, Benjamin Lanouette. 16th, Stefan Morian. 17th is Omar Zanchi. 18th is Eric Garcia, just crossing the finish line now. 19th is Marcus Meyer, who also just crossed the finish line as well. And, excuse me, and in 20th we have Simon Van Duij, who is the first car a lap down. Excuse me, Marcus Meyer is the first car a lap down. 21st, Andre Kuna. 22nd, George Fike. 23rd, Saif Alea. 24th, Harley Lewis. And 25th will be Mike McCloskey, Joe.
Then in 26th, we've got Wayne Morgan. 27th is Harry Gosling. 28th is Andy Morgan. 29th is Tori Tesla. And 30th is Tian Dames. Richard?
Well, there are not too many beyond that. Where did we get up to? 30th, did you say?
Yes.
All right, 31, we had Adam Allen. Jesper Pedersen, really unfortunate, finished up in 32. I believe that he would have been certainly in the top 10 or maybe even top 5 if it wasn't for that really unfortunate accident. In 33 we had Danny Shabesta, who incidentally caused the problem for Jesper. Paul Hayward in 34. 35 was Stephen Westrup. 36 John Whitehouse. 37 Gary Jackson. 38 Thomas Halonen, who was promising early on in the race, Joe. And 39, Alexis Molina. 40th, Janice. And after that, I believe they all did not finish us, Joe.
Yes, Miguel Perez was DNF in 41st. So was Chris Moran in 42nd. Dion Phillips was 43rd. Marco Mogren was 44th. Dwayne Stoddart was 45th. Amjed Yaman was 46th. Trent Smith was 47th. Stephen Helsdren was 48th. And then, bringing up the last of it, Heinrich Lorenz finished 49th. So, that's our fields. It was an exciting 2 hours, guys. That was, even though we had a few lulls, it was definitely a lot of action throughout the whole thing.
Absolutely, Joe. And if you go back to the beginning and you remember how Wojciech had this car that was completely pulverized in the rear end, somehow he managed to pilot that car around to the first pit stop, and from that point on, I don't think he ever looked like he was going to be out of the podium, Joe.
Yeah, he was just always up there and always fighting. Even with that damage, he was dominating everybody. Let's hop to break though, and we'll hopefully get you a few interviews after we come back from break. Welcome back to the MX-5 Super Showdown. The race just finished, and Wojciech Swidowicz just took his win after 2 hours around Suzuka International Racing Circuit. We have a few people who are here ready to be interviewed, so let's take a minute to talk to a few of them. I see Jesper Pedersen in there, who didn't have the best of finishes, but let's find out how his race went. Jesper, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
Jesper, you had very early troubles. A mistake on the first lap put you on your back foot, but you were looking set for a top 5 up until the end. What happened with the lap traffic there?
Yeah, I came up behind 2 cars, and the first one went wide, and I passed him on the inside. And then I came up behind the other one, and he went wide and onto the grass, and I just took the inside and gave him room, and then he came back on the track, and when he turned back on the track, he kept that position with the wheel, and yeah, hit me in the back, and I spun around.
It was disappointing, to say the least. We were looking forward to seeing you make a comeback after something so hard fought. But you've now done 2 of these. You won the first. You were looking at a good finish on the second. Are you expecting to run the other 2 races in this 4-part series?
Yeah, I think so. If the times let me, I will.
Awesome stuff. Well, do you have any sponsors or people you'd like to thank that helped make this race happen for you?
Yeah, I would like to thank all my sponsors, and then I'll give a shout out to the AAA Academy, a nice little racing school where I'm an instructor together with Jørgen Petersen. So, if people struggle, yeah, try that.
Very simple. I like that. Thanks for coming and talk to us, and we hope that next race goes a little better for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we're still trying to drag our podium into here. Unfortunately, they're not showing, but we do have some other interesting figures around. Ayrton Ellis had quite an eventful race and did a great comeback drive. Ayrton, can you hear us?
Yep.
Ayrton, you were looking like you were doing pretty good early on. You were up into 3rd, and then had a bit of a tangle with Simone, but you managed to come back and finish in 6th. And I'd have to say that's pretty impressive. What do you think got you that far back up the field?
I think just focusing on not messing up. I had a little tangle with Simone early on. I managed to get up to 2nd, and I was really hoping to stay in the top 5 for the majority of the race since I was battling with those guys. But then I had some the contact with the lap car did ruin my race. I lost a lot of speed. If I didn't have that contact, I think I would have been able to reach into the top 5 and battle with Luke or Simone.
Now this one, we saw some pit strategy come into play on this one as well, just like last time. And did you have a pit strategy going into this, or what did you employ as far as that goes?
Well, after the spin, when I was in 2nd place, I decided to follow Simone, not pass him, just follow him through the pack, because he was very fast. So I would just follow him and lift off on the straights, and that saved quite a bit of fuel. And I was hoping on my last pit stop to be able to take 1 gallon less, which would cut quite a few seconds off my pit stop and give me a chance to jump someone in the pits. But because I got hit, I couldn't do that because I had no one to draft with for the rest of the race.
Yeah, we'd kept half an eye on you and Simone, and I kind of figured that's what you were doing as I was watching, because you weren't really attacking. I have to give you kudos on employing such a intelligent strategy there. Well, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, or people you'd like to thank for putting on this race for you?
I think that's fairly obvious. GSRC.
we appreciated you representing our paint scheme out there on the track, and I think you did us proud today. Thanks, man.
Yep, thanks.
Well done, Ayrton.
Well, sorry, I just moved him out as soon as you said that. I don't see too many guys hanging around waiting otherwise. Let's see, and let me ask our director if he thinks we should go ahead with more, if we should close up here. All right, let's do one more. Stefan Overgaard, who we didn't see a whole lot of, but had a fairly decent finish, 11th place. Stefan, can you hear us?
Yeah, I got you too.
Stefan, you were fairly anonymous as far as the broadcast went, but it seems you did fairly well, almost a top 10. Did you have any troubles? Because we saw a lot of lap traffic coming into play. You managed to stay on the lead lap. Did you have any problems as far as that goes, or was it pretty clean sailing for you?
I wouldn't say it was clean sailing. I ran into a bit of trouble on the first lap in the SS and got a bit of damage. I was rear-ended. So I had a bit of damage there and lost about a second per lap. So I went in and took the first pit stop as soon as I could. And then unfortunately, once I came out, I hit a lap traffic car and had more damage. So I spent most of the race with a bit of damage. So that's part of the reason why I didn't come high up in the scoreboard.
It sounds like that would just kind of make a bit of a miserable day as far as trying to make inroads. But I'm trying to remember, did you race at Spa, the last race?
Yeah, I raced there. Can't remember exactly position, about 10th I think. Ran out of fuel on the last straight.
How does this one compare to that one as far as just excitement and strategy wise? Because these are two tracks that are similar in some ways but different in others. So how do you see these side by side and how they played out?
Well, strategy wise, I played it better because I timed my fuel perfectly. This time it didn't run out. I also, I had a bit of good battles in both of the races. Even though I ended a bit down, I still had some battle for positions with, I think, can't remember his name, Neil, I think his first name was.
Yeah, and is there any sponsors or people you'd like to thank for helping put on this race for you?
Yeah, I can thank GSR and also my team, Asbury Motorsports.
Good stuff. I know Richard is on that team as well, so I'm sure he appreciates that. Thanks for coming and talking to us. All right, well, we're closing up, and it was another exciting 2 hours, guys. In one word, can you describe this race for me, Kevin?
A frantic first half.
Richard?
I would say interesting from all aspects.
I would agree, and I would throw in there intense. Thank you to Konrad Hutten for putting this on. We also want to thank all the people that full service. If you'd like to check out more, check out our website at www.globalsimracingchannel.com, where we have archived races and highlights. We'll be putting on our next race this weekend, come Saturday, for the Blondies series, which is a 75-minute race at Sebring night, and that'll be a good one. A lot of intense stuff there. In the meantime, keep yourself clean out on there on the track, race hard, and we'll hope to see you next time.